We are live, and I tell you what a great time it is to be a wrestling fan right now. Johnny Gagano returning on Monday Night Raw to the song Rebel Heart. I must admit, I was at my karaoke best, Jonesy, when that blasted out completely out of nowhere on Monday night. I'm looking forward to diving straight into it with you, getting the details of what you thought about the return of Johnny Gargano. Johnny wrestling to WWE. There was all the speculation, would he go to AEW? We see him have a cameo glimpse on Impact Wrestling a short time ago, a video clip. There's lots of speculation on Johnny Gargano, but he's now back and he's in WWE with the inspiration of winning the IC title, the US title, the WWE Championship, even appearing at a WrestleMania. NXT no more. Johnny Gargano is here to stay and it's going to be on Monday nights. But for everyone that's watching, thank you for checking the video out. Please like, share, and subscribe as well. And like I say, we'll get involved in the chat. We're taking your questions as well. Anything WWE, anything wrestling in particular, we're happy to dive into everything. But before we start, Jonesy Chats Wrestling in-house, of course, does his own YouTube work, does, of course, Twitch as well with Football Manager, even as part of the Wrestling Report on Rated R for Wrestling. I have to add the wrestling every time that I do it. I like to emphasize that point. Fantastic YouTube channel. Go and check out everything that's going on with Jonesy. But Jonesy, first off, how are you? And secondly, your feelings of Johnny Gargano returning to WWE.
I'm fantastic. You know something big's gone down. We're on a Tuesday night. We never do Tuesday night podcasts, but yeah, I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me on your fantastic channel again. My thoughts, mate, the last time I felt like this was when X-Pac debuted for D-Generation X. I'm getting them vibes, like just pure excitement. And it was so nice, the level of secrecy WWE went to, like with the private jet and stuff to get Johnny there. Yeah, really, really good. And this period we're in at the moment, I never thought we'd get like this again. And I think we're blessed at the moment as wrestling fans. This really feels to me every week at the moment is must-watch TV. It hasn't felt like for years, which it's just really good, isn't it, at the moment, WWE? It's incredible. What since Triple H has come in, really, in all honesty.
He's delivering. Let's be fair. I mean, like we said, we've got surprises each and every week. We've got coherent storylines. We've got cliffhangers. We've got stuff to get you gripped each and every week. Even some great matches as well. I mean, you go back to SmackDown last week, the final five-way for the IC title #1 contenders match was an absolute belter. So there was some great stuff going on each and every week on WWE right now. And Johnny Gargano, of course, being one of the major ones there. We've got 3 comments in the chat already. We've got quite a few comments in the chat already, actually. Let's just quickly call out what people have got to say before giving my reaction there for you. We've got This Week in Metropolis here in the house. Hope you're doing well. James, thank you for checking out the stream. Says, evening, dude. The Triple H revival of WWE continues. A great time to be a wrestling fan. Again, absolutely can't disagree with that 100%, and hope you are doing well, my friend. Underground Temple is in the house as well. Says Triple H was like, if Vince McMahon can't debut Johnny Gargano on the main roster, you may as well do it yourself. Thank you, Papa H. Sorry, George, for waking you up whilst me and my fiance marked out. Jonesy, did Underground wake you up?
Yeah, no, literally, no, yeah. To be fair, when Johnny came out, it was so random the way he came out. The placement was really random, but yeah, fantastic. Like when that hit, I was just surprised. Like I thought we'd been waiting for him to come back for a while, and the way they delivered that, what a placement in the third hour though. The show, particularly after that vignette we saw for Edge and Priest, it was just so random, wasn't it? He was there, but yeah, massive fan of it. I personally, I would have rather they saved it for the pay-per-view, if I'm being honest, because it's a huge return. But I'm just so happy to see him back. This guy this time, I really feel that he's going to be the new Daniel Bryan. He's really going to be the underdog that people get behind. And look for this underground storyline, underdog storyline to probably start with him. I think this is a Johnny that will portray bereft of confidence a little bit, and it's going to take him a while for the fans to get behind him. But they've got to do Ciampa Gargano at WrestleMania. I'm going to call that already. I think that's something that they have to do in some capacity already.
Interesting stuff indeed. And of course, Ciampa will be a part of our topic of conversation. Ed Fries is in the house with a comment regarding Tommaso Ciampa. So that's a little teaser of what will be coming up very, very shortly. But just quickly before we do, Martin Carrillo here saying, what is up, both Steve and Jonesy? Last night's Raw felt special in his opinion. And I have to agree, every show feels special right now, especially with the moment. Jonesy made a great comment there, by the way, the placement of Johnny Gargano making his return in the third hour of Raw. Usually it's the hour of Raw that struggles a bit more. We get kind of the more filler stuff. Feels like a great 2 hours of Raw almost. We get each and every week, and then the third hour comes and we're kind of waiting for that main event. Even the main event sometimes can feel a bit flat compared to the main event of the end of the second hour. We looked last week, Bobby Lashley versus AJ Styles was the main event of the second hour. Theory versus Dolph Ziggler was the main event of the third hour. Now, some may think this is controversial. Thought it was a bit lackluster, that main event for Raw last week. But you look this week in Toronto, the big finish, the hometown hero, Edge going against Damian Priest in the main event. First time Edge in Toronto competing on Raw in 10 years, or even competing in Toronto in 10 years. Big time deal with that itself. But then before that, unannounced, complete surprise. Like you said, that feeling like when X-Pac turned up in 1998. We've had so many surprises like that over the years, but it feels like in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, we don't get stuff like that. And usually stuff gets leaked ahead of time as well. We know, all the sort of big dirt sheets out there will say this person's coming. Now, don't get me wrong. We spoke about it, Jones and I, plenty of times on this channel, on other channels. We always said Johnny Gargano was coming back. That's a given. I don't think anyone was surprised that Gargano came back. But the fact was, the timing of this, in my opinion, may just be perfect because everyone was saying last week when it was in Ohio, Johnny Gargano's hometown, wasn't on that show. Everyone goes, oh, okay, he's not coming for the time being. We'll cool off. And even I myself, when at the time we did a live stream, I think last week in Ohio, I said, if it doesn't come, I'd save it to the draft. I'd let it go. And my head, I thought he won't come for a while. And this week, just completely unannounced, there in the ring. And I thought myself, brilliant. When Rebel Heart played as well, different music to his main NXT theme compared to what we had at the end of NXT. Amazing stuff indeed. And to go as well, just into the program he had there with Theory. Of course, that was his last interactions in NXT with him. The way they went with the back and forth with those two, I thought that's brilliant. And what a great start for you as well, because Theory, Mr. Money in the Bank, Johnny Gargano wants to come in to be a big deal. For me, I think that this could be a fun time storyline. But obviously, we have had mentions of Tommaso Ciampa. So let's bring Ed Fry's comment up here. He says, I just wish they'd inserted him in the US title picture and tried to save Ciampa, which I'm guessing was either to do with Bobby Lashley maybe a couple of weeks ago, or perhaps maybe with a turn from The Miz on Ciampa, I'm guessing would be more likely, and we could get the reunion of DIY. Do you think that perhaps this was the right placement and right feud to bring perhaps Johnny Gargano back, or should it have been something like a DIY?
I think for me, should have been a DIY. The feud, to be fair, on paper, it'll be fine. It's a fun feud to go in. You are almost booking yourself into a corner. I don't know, you're too pessimistic here. Both these guys can't afford a loss now. Austin Theory's got the briefcase, so he can't afford a loss. Gargano's first feud back, he can't afford a loss. This should have been 2 or 3 months down the line. I'm happy to see it. It's going to be good in ring. I'm just interested to see where they play it out. Is this going to be Extreme Rules, or are we going to get this a couple of weeks at Clash at Castle? It is a fun first feud. And what I would ask $1 million question is, how does Dexter Lumis fit on all this as well? Because this is obviously, he's a third part of it to a certain point. But it's a fun feud. And I like the way that Gargano came out on top. I thought that was a crucial thing. I think I expected Austin's cheap shot him with a briefcase, if I'm being honest. So that was a nice swerve.
Yeah, it was. I thought that Austin Theory was going to be the one that would turn on Johnny Gargano in that to set the program up, but instead it was a smart babyface. We don't see that so often in the modern day, and it's nice to see smart babyfaces. Johnny Gargano, for me, just the whole promo, that it connected well. For me, I enjoyed it. That's pretty much it. The fun factor came in. The fact that he didn't come in and sort of, how can I put it? Suffers a loss in his hometown, or gets the beat down, and he instantly looks strong coming into this show. And he's been on NXT, one of the main people. Like he said, he's been the Triple Crown champion, tag team champion in that same building, has been a 3-time North American champion, former NXT champion. So he's done a lot. And obviously, we mentioned it in a comment there from Ed, Ciampa probably his greatest rival in NXT, probably the greatest rivalry in the last 10 years, if you ask my opinion, up there with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. Probably the two ones that stand out if you ask me first, what are the best feuds? And to be honest with me, I would say that DIY, I think they will cross paths eventually, whether it's a team or whether it's against each other. I think they'll play that story on the main roster, whether it's for a US title at this particular moment, maybe later down the line could be an IC title. Who knows? Maybe one day it could even be the world title with Triple H in charge. I wouldn't be against seeing both of these guys towards the top of the card. But one thing is for sure, in the meantime, I think the Ciampa Miz storyline, it's got mileage. Now, people may disagree with me. I'm actually enjoying their connection, their work together. I love the pat on the back last week on Raw from Ciampa with Miz being obnoxious next to him. I thought this could work for a few months, almost like the Miz and Mizdow, but instead of the comedy goofy sidekick, Ciampa really is the star, and Miz is the one that's going to get jealous. And where it's kind of rather than goofy antics, it's actually someone that's actually a star in amongst that can break out in WWE. I think that story can be told even up to Royal Rumble. I don't think it'll go as long as WrestleMania, but you could even then get to where it's Johnny Gargano and Ciampa come WrestleMania. I'm going to throw another little bit of fantasy booking just at you very quickly, Jones. Or not fantasy booking, but a suggestion. People saying about DIY. Would Ciampa and Gagano, if they eventually get back to a team, be the right team to dethrone the Usos for the tag team titles?
Yes, I think so, definitely. They're a team that people want to get behind. Alongside Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they're the two teams that I'd put together at this moment. That I think realistically come in at day one and beat the Usos, not the pay-per-view day one, but the first match opportunity, if that makes sense. But I think they could, to be fair. I think they're very, very good. The only trouble with them for wrestlers, we said, they're also good as singles wrestlers. They could be your Intercontinental champions. They could be your United States champion, eventually evolve into the Universal title, if that makes sense. But I think they could do. I'd love to see DIY down the line. You can then do that big singles feud. They're working NXT. That feud they had for months and months was incredible. The heel turn from Gargano, I still remember that was really, really good. And yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I think you make some good points.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it's going to play out. For me, I'm going to say, as we're going to go into the chat, I think, more now to get everyone so we don't fall too far behind. But what I'll say is that all topics are raw. Feel free to bring them up. Any questions you got about anything else as well, bring them up for us. But what we'll say is, with Johnny Gagano, as Martin says here, I completely agree. If you're not excited for Johnny Gagano's return, then I don't know what does. And for me personally, I have to agree with that 100% because Johnny Gargano coming back for me, he could have been in AEW and there would have been some great dream matches. I'd love to have seen that. I still want to see him against Bryan Danielson.
I agree. I've got one last fantasy booking idea. I know we're sort of going on it, but just while we're on Gargano, what I'd love to see them do, if you're bringing him back, we've obviously brought him back as a babyface, but if they want to go down the heel route, you could have done something where Theory gets taken out at the pay-per-view, then you could have had Gargano cash in with that briefcase. That's something they could have done. It's absolutely crazy, but that would have been something else that everyone would have talked about. Imagine Gargano cashing in on Roman or Drew. That could have been something fun. If they wanted to go down that road, I don't think they would have done that, but it's just something a bit out there that I'd like to see them do. Done.
It's different. It's creative. It's outside the box, and that's something we like. And this is what we're getting at the moment with Triple H. We're getting ideas of things that we didn't think we'd see for a very long time. And something I will say is, as we come to our next comment, I've got a couple of questions, but a couple of things I'm going to say. And it reminds me with this comment, Underground. So thank you for putting in. I just want to say Triple H is doing a fantastic job with Dexter Lumis. I completely agree. The way they've done with Dexter Lumis right now so far, there's lots more questions than answers. We've had 3 weeks of it as well. There's still the same questions out there. There's still the same buzz. Who was the second guy? I've got no idea at this particular moment. You're going to tell me that. I want you to tell me that in a minute. I want you to tell me that in a minute. But I'm going to quickly just say, everyone's linking with the stuff going on backstage with the crash car. We see this week, again, Adam Pearce with people backstage. All that stuff's going on. What if that is not linked and related to Dexter Lumis, and we're just seeing Dexter Lumis out of the ringside? There could be multiple storylines going beneath in the background that we're not aware about. But what I would say is I have to agree with Underground. Dexter Lumis right now, it's another really exciting storyline.
Yeah, I agree. It's fantastic. It's good long-term booking. There's so much going on in the backdrop of Raw. This is really good. They've got these little intricacies that you can see. You have to see what's going on backstage. But yeah, I think this is the tip of the iceberg. If this is Triple H in his first month in the company, we're spoiled, aren't we? We're going to get this type of stuff. This is what we probably should have had for years. And I think it just pays off. But the attention to detail on Dexter Lumis, it's very, very clever. And it very much is an Attitude Era storyline for me. It's exactly what I sort of love about wrestling, if I'm being honest. Yeah, you're not getting all the answers on day one. The answers aren't obvious. It's not something that you can say this is what's going to happen.
And Joe, I think you're bang on the money with that as well, because like you say, we're getting things outside the box. And Triple H has got a blend here. He's worked in the old school, he's worked in the Attitude Era, he's worked through Ruthless Aggression, he's worked through every era for the last 25, nearly 30 years. And at the same time, he knows all of this roster. He worked with all of them in NXT. He's seen what's worked successfully on Raw and SmackDown previously with a lot of them. Obviously, Dexter Lumis getting his first shot at it, but he's had these ideas probably in the background. If they go to Raw and SmackDown, this is what I would do. And now we're getting the opportunity to see all this play out with all these multiple different superstars. And it's so much fun to see. And Dexter Lumis is one of those that's, at the moment, really actually turned to be a breath of fresh air. Because I said before, I think it could be one-dimensional. So far, yes, it's probably still could be, but they're playing out in a really, really interesting way. You said that you had an idea, potentially, of who the other person was, the second person. Could you give us an insight on who that would be then?
Yeah. So the other person, this person's known as Rajan Hushar. So he's a local competitor. He was trained at the Battle Arts Academy. So seen some of the vignettes he's done on YouTube. He looks pretty dark. For me, I don't know if he was just a plant as a one-off. I have heard rumors today that his hood wasn't meant to come off. Let's see if they acknowledge it next week, because there wasn't much said after he was taken away, and there wasn't really a response. So I would like to see them with continuity. Say, I'd love Dexter to respond to him and him be some sort of disciple to Dexter. But I'm interested to see what they've done. And I thought it was a great placement. I thought it was really creative. I got the feeling Dexter would be under that security helmet. I thought that was kind of coming once we saw the guy taken away. But the fact they went to the crowd and it's somebody brand new that nobody knows, it's not like you could go, who was that, and know it instantly. It's taken a lot of work to get to find out who that was, which is quite SCW. They've gone out and got somebody that nobody knows, which I think is good. It may have been slightly cool if you had somebody that we all know, like somebody that was returning something, but I thought it was a great placement. And this Dexter Lumis character, very creative, and taking the Miz, that was quite a nice swerve. Like, I thought that might potentially happen, but I really kind of enjoyed it. And I'm interested where this goes next, in all honesty. I think if they wanted to up the ante, if we were in TV 14 now, I think he should have kidnapped Maurice. It should have been a bit like the Brian Pillman Goldust storyline. Do you remember that whole storyline back in 96 or 97? Sorry, where Marlene had to go with Goldust for however many days. I'd like to see that pay out with Maurice in that spot. But this is me being shown my age, going back to the good old days, really.
It could be quite creative and it could be quite fun. I like that storyline. One last question, and I'll go back to the comments in with what everyone's got to say. We already mentioned the idea of the way that there's 3 people from that group currently on Raw now. They're all together. We've got Johnny Gargano, we've got Dexter Lumis, we've got Theory, all doing different roles. What's to say they don't all come together at some point? This is pieces to a big puzzle, to a big picture that we haven't seen play out yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing that's missing is Indy Hartwell. She's going on Raw on the draft. She has to. I'll call that now. Yeah. And I think with Dexter, last time I'm probably going to say that, so I just want to bring anything else up, is with Dexter, I think he's going to blame somebody for their split. I don't really know what the Miz is at this point, or what the connection is with Miz and him, but I'm intrigued. Like, seeing the Miz as a victim, he's a heel, so it's kind of unusual for a heel to be kidnapped instead of a babyface. But I'm loving it. Let's see what goes on. But I really hope that there is some payoff to the car crash and everything else. It's quite a lot that's going on, and if we don't get any explanation, say for next week, I mentioned the guy that attacked AJ. It's a bit like the old days, which I'm not really a fan of most recent times. But I'm willing to give it a chance and see where it goes.
Absolutely, there's more questions than answers, and sometimes
we love that, really.
We do love that indeed there. I think Johnny Gagano will remain babyface, by the way, for anyone, when I've just thrown that suggestion out there. I don't see it happening any way different at this point, but certainly it's fun to have a bit of fantasy booking. We've got Patrick in the house with us now. Says, hey guys, how's it going? Good to have you with us. Hope you're doing well. Also, Johnny Gagano is back, and I love his return. It was awesome to see. We've already gone in great depths already. 16 minutes into the stream, and Johnny Gagano has been a main talking point already. And give me the DIY tag team. We'll certainly do our best with it. We can't promise it, but Triple H, if you're watching, give the people what they want. It feels like DIY would be a popular team to bring back.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's got to do it. And with Triple H in charge, he's not pushing muscly guys. He's pushing people who can wrestle. This is a treat.
It certainly is indeed. We've got Noob and Co in the house as well. Noob, hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. And also, we've got another comment coming here from Martin Carrillo. Chris, and how Triple H does keep returns or debuts on high-low from coming out from the light once it happens. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of these surprises haven't been leaked, really. I think Karrion Kross broke before it happened, but it was more like he's coming back. No one really knew he was coming back the same night. So they've done quite well keeping a lot of these under wraps.
Yeah, they have. I think the thing with it, I think it's an art, really, to do that. This level sequences stuff, they need to do it more often. I think for me, stuff out in the dirt sheets, it's never the same. If you find that someone's coming back, I can tell you someone's coming back on Raw. It never has that buzz when you don't know. Like with Gargano, with Karrion Kross, I didn't personally know. I had an idea he was coming, but you don't actually know. And they've got to do that more often. That's the natural reaction. You don't go and see a movie and know the ending. You don't know the main character's going to die or anything like that. It's much more magical if you're spoiler free, I think.
Absolutely, and I think that's a key thing to enjoy wrestling. Is like you said, if you watch your favorite series or whatever, sometimes you might watch a sports match and you know the result and you think, well, I like to see my team plays. But even then, you don't have the same buzz. Say, for example, we're big football soccer fans, for example. If we know our team has lost 3-0 before we go and watch the game, we don't watch it with the same enthusiasm as what we might have done. We kind of know, oh, that's going to miss. The shot's not going to go in. Could be the same for anyone. If they're watching NBA basketball, if it's American football, whatever it is, it can affect a lot of people. So I agree. It's good that they can keep these things a surprise, and long may it continue in WWE. We're really enjoying these shocks that are coming each and every time.
Well, really
go on, Josie.
After you. No, after you.
I was just going to say the next comment, but Josie, you go first.
Okay, last from that last point was what I really like about the Triple H era. We can kind of predict where stuff's happening. Like Bailey coming back, we kind of was able to predict that and the placement, but it's always extras on top. Like you got Dakota Kai, Sky, that's something no one knew. You're getting this extra guy with Dexter now. You got all this other stuff. It's always extra with Triple H. It's not just the obvious, which is so nice. That was my last point on that.
I think it's a great point you make as well. It's depth, isn't it? There's layers. It's almost like you said, you've done this many times when we've done these podcasts, and you said to me, we need not just this great little starting point. We need some development. We need the middle. We need an end. We need knowing each and every week and layers of where the storyline's going to go. Now, time will tell if that'll be the case of every return, every storyline, but it feels like you said there, Sky, Dakota Kai coming in. There's actually a base in there. There's more to it than just me saying, oh, Bailey returns. That's it. Crowd cheers. And yeah, we'll just carry on and see where it goes in 4 to 6 weeks' time. Triple H had a plan with that, and he's made a plan with that. He's established that for the Women's Tag Team Tournament, probably for the Raw Women's Championship program as well with Bianca and Bailey eventually. So there's all these layers then, all these things that can play out for storyline telling, which is simple storytelling, but effective each and every week and goes on for weeks. You've got stuff you can work with, which I think the creative was missing for a long, long time. So, James, I think you make a fantastic point there.
Yeah, thank you. No problem.
Underground Temple says Owens and Zayn to beat the Usos over DIY. For me, the story is there with Zayn, but we could have Owens and Zayn versus DIY in the future. Imagine. I would agree with Underground, by the way, Owens and Zayn. And did you hear Toronto cheering on Owens and wanting Sami Zayn to make the save on Monday night last night? But Owens didn't need him against Alpha Academy. Wonder what it says about the Academy right now. But either way, I think Owens and Zayn probably on the right team, but certainly the tag team division could be a lot more spiced up here, looking with the idea of those teams being in the mix.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a dream match. One day, maybe.
One day indeed. Noob and Co, and this is a question I would love to talk about here in a bit of depth here. Noob and Co saying the women's tag team tournament is pretty much a mess. First Toxic Attraction got injured. Now Asuka, as always, eats the pin and gets eliminated from the tournament. I mean, like you said there, I mean, yeah, it's a shame that Asuka and Alexa Bliss lost in the tournament. I think many were expecting Dakota Kai and Io Sky to go to the final. I can't say I'm surprised with that. But with the brackets, like Nuba said there, Toxic Attraction Gigi Dolan sadly getting injured after her match last week on SmackDown. Let's hope wish her a speedy recovery. Apparently a concussion as well. So Stark and Nikita Lyons were supposed to be in that spot before. And now the tournament's become like this second chance, which seems a bit messy. People that have lost get to go back into a tournament where it's a knockout always. Why couldn't any team now that's been knocked out? Surely Oscar and Alexa Bliss deserve a second chance if they've been eliminated for the first time because they've already won a match. All these people in this fatal four-way now have all lost their match. Does it seem a bit of a mess?
It is a bit chaotic, but having two lots of injuries is pretty bad luck. Give Triple H some credit. Like when the first team from NXT got taken out or injured, he moved to Toxic Attraction. He should have had them in first. So unfortunately, they got injured. This tournament for me has been really obvious, like who's winning it all since the start. Like Io Sky and Dakota Control, they're going to win the tournament. I'm pretty sure. Look for the final to be them against Raquel and her partner. Not Raquel. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's Raquel Gonzalez and her partner Aaliyah. I think that's going to be the final, I believe. I expect Damage Control to win, and then I look for at the pay-per-view, look for Sasha and Naomi to come back. That's the way I think it's going to go down, and this will start a program for them two teams. That's what I expect. But yeah, the tournament's been pretty obvious. Oscar unfortunately did take the pin. I wouldn't mind Alexa taking the pin, but this was just a throwaway match. It was a big match to give away, but the Hills had to get some momentum here going into this pay-per-view match in a couple of weeks.
For me, the only thing I would say here for Noob in regards with Oscar eating the pin, one of her or Bliss had to do it. And to be fair, they are making new stars in the process, which is good to see. We'd like to see new evolving stars in WWE. Dakota Kai and Io Sky, two very top talents, and they've got a bright future. And you need to establish this tag team division with some new fresh blood as well, because we didn't really have it with the old blood that was on Raw. But for me, the only thing I would say that I'd go in Noob's direction, which could save it, I think it should have been the final. That's the match that would have made sense for the final, because it was the only sense of doubt is if Bliss and Oscar could have won those championships. I don't look at any of the other teams and think it could happen. What I will say, though, is, and this could be a blessing in disguise for Toxic Attraction, because they would have lost in this tournament. I think they're getting caught up in the draft at some point further down the line, whenever it'll be October, September before. And I think then they'll be a big-time player in that tag team division.
Yeah, I agree. I think you made a really good point there. Another reason why the Hill team, one Hill, had to win here. Bear in mind, earlier in the show, this Hills faction ran away from the Babyfaces. That's something I'm not a fan of. And this was the momentum. This was the point to get the momentum back by winning the tag team tournament. They already ran away at the start of the show from Trish Stratus and the other three. This is the point where they had to get some momentum back. So it made sense. For the storyline purposes of this match they're going to have, I was happy to see the Hills win. It's just down to where they go, but I think that it's a foregone conclusion for the final, unless something happens and somebody gets screwed. Whoever they're going to have coming back in it, whether that's going to be Natalya and Sonya, I believe, probably, that I imagine they're going to win on Friday. And then it's just where they go next, really. But it'd be good to have good tag team champions out of it. But yeah, it's a shame, really, that the match wasn't that good, I thought, unfortunately. No. Didn't really deliver.
No, and the thing is, hopefully they can get back on track with this tournament, because obviously we want to see these tag team titles established. I think when Sasha and Naomi do return, which let's expect they do at this point, I think that certainly will give a big boost to that tag team division, whatever is played out of what we see right now. Anthony says, Steve, me and you are simpatico. I can't believe you agree with me with Santos being called up and paired with the cousins, and then Dom turning on Ray. Yes, I do agree with you. I think Underground Temple has been saying that one as well a little bit. He's definitely been a fan of that idea for quite a while. Jonesy, there's 3 people that like that idea. Do you like that idea?
Which one? Santos being called up?
Santos being called up and paired with his cousins, and then Dom turning on Ray to join them.
Yeah, Santos is definitely being called up. Dom, I think it'd be great to see him turn if it does happen. Yeah, all that's pretty logical. I think that should make sense, really. They have to do something with Santos. He's left NXT, so him on the main roster. Triple H is a fan. It's got to happen, hasn't it?
Monday Night Raw, look out for it.
Yeah.
Martin Correa says, if they would have saved Johnny's return to Clash of the Castle, wouldn't it have been more predictable? I wouldn't have said so because I didn't see it coming at all. I think it would have been saved to the draft myself. Jonesy?
Yeah, I think it would have been. I don't know if it'd be predictable. He would have got a huge pop. It would have been a big thing for the UK fans to say we was at the show where Gargano came back. I get why they've done it. I was just interested to see where they go next. For me, they must have. I'm hoping they've got somebody bigger for the pay per view. Than being honest.
Let's have to wait and see if they do or don't at this point. The card is shaping up, though. Patrick says, now we want to see Braun Strowman return in WWE. I thought I saw him in the crowd, actually, for the Joshua Usyk boxing fight. Was he in the crowd there? I thought I
have
saw
no idea.
that.
I didn't see. I thought you said you saw him in Raw crowd. I was going to say, God, I missed that. But no, I don't know. I have no idea. Probably. I imagine so.
Would you like to see him back in WWE?
I'm not a massive fan of it. If it's the original Braun Strowman that everyone got behind, then yes. If it's the green slime trained Braun Strowman that just was a bit of a mess, no. I think he's a great cameo. It's just down to where you put him, really. I think he could have some interesting matches. I'd love to see him face Karrion Kross, though, if he did come back.
I feel like he was damaged goods by the time he left, but like you said, if you can get him back to the Braun of 5 years ago, and it feels like we are getting like KO the Prize Fighter back. Yeah. We're getting Dolph Ziggler of 2016 almost back at this point, like with big matches on Raw. If we can start to hold some of the people that had booked quite well a few years ago, maybe they could do it with Braun. We'll have to wait and see.
I agree.
Underground says here, Miz and Ciampa recruit Gagano and help Miz get a shot at the US title. Miz loses against Lashley, turns on Gagano, and then he starts beating the hell out of him. And then we get Ciampa afterwards standing and watching and finally snaps and saves Gagano. Face turn for Ciampa and DIY reforms. Would you like to see that fantasy booking play out?
Sounds like a fun idea. Sounds like well thought out of. Good idea, Underground.
Good idea indeed. I like it. The only thing I would say that I would, unfortunately, with it, I do feel that Johnny Gargano will be a babyface going forward, but certainly love the creativity. I think it's awesome. Martin says maybe Candice returns after the draft once Indy gets drafted to Raw to reform the way in a way, the way. I can't even say, but Martin, I know where you're going with, my friend there. Jonesy, yeah, I mean, it certainly could be a possibility. I think Candice will return at some point.
Yeah, I think she has to return. In terms of reforming the way, for me, I think Austin's outgrown that. I don't know, sort of as he goes up the upper echelons of the card, whether he's going to go all the way back down, but it might be a one-off. He might do that as a one-off, but it depends where Dexter is at this point as well. He might be crazy, like based on his recent build, if that makes sense.
Certainly could happen. But maybe there's another tag team for the women's tag team titles, Candice and Indy.
It could be. Yeah, they're okay. They're not bad, are they? They're better than probably some of the other teams we've had.
Certainly a lot of the makeshift teams that we've never seen thrown together before. So I will be more in favour of that than some of the others we've seen. Patrick says, hope Triple H brings DIY versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a tag team match. Bit of work to get there, but it could happen. You never know. Never say never. Anthony says here as well, with the tweets Triple H has made to McIntyre's character the past 3 weeks, now you can see Gallus, Alba Fire being called up and paired with Bruno. I mean, we've been talking about this a few times now, Anthony, of course, with the idea of McIntyre and Gallus. Gallus now in NXT. Obviously, worlds are going to collide on September the 4th. I'm guessing Gallus, by the way, will win the NXT UK Tag Team titles tomorrow night from Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. And we expect, obviously, Gallus then probably will go on to take on the NXT Tag Team champions at present, who they attacked this past week, which are the Creed brothers. So are you interested in the idea of Gallus being on the main roster at any point? And would you like to see them in the pairing with Drew McIntyre?
I'm a big fan of them. In terms of a pairing with McIntyre, I don't think so. For me, McIntyre is much better as a solo, sort of on his own, if that makes sense. But I'd like to see him on the main roster. They're a very good team. I think they do their best work when they're heels, though, to be fair. I'm not really... I think McIntyre, unless McIntyre's good turn heel or something, for me, I think he needs to be separate from them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, what if McIntyre did turn heel? Would you be a fan of it then?
I potentially would be, but there's only room for one heel, I'm afraid, in WWE at the moment. You know who that is. It's Roman Reigns. As much as I love McIntyre as a heel, if you take him as a heel, who's there to oppose him on the babyface side at the moment? I don't think there is anybody, unfortunately. Kevin Owens, actually, you could do it. Kevin Owens is the one that is going to be babyface. It's going up, but yeah, it could reset it though. Would you like to see Drew as a heel then? Would you reset in quick succession?
I can't say I'm desperate for it, but what I would say is if he loses a Clash of the Castle, then there has to be a turn of the character somewhere.
Imagine
Something has
he
to
loses
change.
and flips out. That'd be amazing. Not that he would do that there, but it'd be absolutely incredible if we did.
And say he was drafted to Raw away from Roman and Cody's on Raw, the battle of the top babyface, and McIntyre's not liking the idea. Remember, he was saying all this stuff, he was carrying the company on his back. What if fans don't buy it? Maybe it could work. Who knows? That'd
be a good match. That'd be a fantastic match, wouldn't it? Ignore it. Babyface a heel's allegiance. It'll be really, really good.
Would be interesting. And Anthony, then we'll bring Gallus in just for you. That's what we'll do. Anthony also says from across the pond in Florida. So thank you for checking out from Florida. Hope you're doing well. And thank you for everyone that's checking wherever you are in the world on this stream. Who thought two English lads would get people from around the world coming checking out what we talk about professional wrestling. We do appreciate you all very, very much. Martin says, match personally I want to see is Johnny Gagano versus John Morrison, or Gagano and Candice versus Morrison and Taya. Fun idea of a couple of matches there. I'd like to see those as well.
I love it. Like, I felt John Morrison was really robbed, Ron for getting released, and Ty never really got a fair look in, did she, in WWE, to be fair?
No.
I think, yeah, I'd definitely be a fan of bringing them both back.
Maybe there could be more wrongs that are turned into rights. Triple H is bringing people back. We'll have to wait and see in the future. I'd be down for Morrison and Ty coming back. Do you guys see Gargano as a heel or a babyface? Babyface for me.
Babyface for me, yeah. Ever since I saw his, he did a shoot interview at the Starcast, I think, Starcade, even what it was, Conrad Thompson thing. Ever since I heard his story of him being low, he's low of confidence as in real life. I think he has to be a babyface, really. When you come out and lay your soul out there, so to speak, and for the whole world to see, you've got to go babyface for me.
Absolutely. And the fact he had a chance to align with Theory and chose not to. And Theory is one of the most despised heels right now. So that tells you the direction he's probably going to go. Martin saying, do you both picture Gargano becoming number 1 or number 2 babyface in the whole of WWE, like AJ Styles or Bryan Danielson? Maybe in time. James, you already suggested the idea of the underdog story. And obviously a big comparison can be made to both of those athletes there. Could Gargano become like that in the company at some point? Say, give it a year or two?
Yeah, he could. If he's got the right build behind him and he's put in the right matches where he can win. This guy's got fantastic technical ability. Let's not forget this guy in NXT was absolutely electric. His size may let him down, but under Triple H, it doesn't really matter. Size doesn't really come into it anymore. So yes, this guy's he's a brand new wrestler in essence to the roster, isn't he? Almost.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a lot of fun. There's so many dream matches we can wait to see. I'd love to see him versus AJ Styles, by the way, both currently
That'd be amazing.
They'd be awesome to see. We could make it happen against Fury. There's so many matches out there, to be fair. And everyone's suggesting the idea of Gargano and Miz and stuff like that. Have them in a match as well. Put Ciampa in the middle. Hey, I'm down for all of it. Good. And speaking of which, how about this is a dream match? It's never going to happen, by the way. But I know it's something you want to talk about, Jonesy. What is Kurt Angle doing next week on Raw? Kurt Angle coming back, of course, one of the greatest in-ring competitors of all time. As much as we'd love to see prime Kurt Angle against a Gargano, I don't see that happening. But Raw is in Pittsburgh next week, isn't it? And obviously we had this week with the hometown kind of people coming in. Trish Stratus was brought in last week. This is kind of fun for cameos, legends coming in of the hometown crowd to get the big pop. Maybe a small storyline can come along with it. Do you see something along that lines here for Kurt Angle?
I think it's good to have these legends back. It gives the local city a bit of a lift, if that makes sense. In terms of what Kurt Angle's doing, there's only one placement for me where he needs to be. He needs to be with Chad Gable. I was watching Raw this week. Every time I see Chad Gable more and more week on week, I feel like Kurt Angle back in the 90s. He has to be there and give him that rub. The only problem I have with all these legends coming in, if it's not going to go to a pay-per-view match, they need to be giving rub to people that are there. I think a lot of the time it's great them taking some sort of momentum, but if they're not giving anything back or if there's not going to be a payoff to it, I think it's a bit wasted. But Kurt Angle and Chad Gable is what I'm going to go with. I think I'd love to see him give him some advice or mentor him. Obviously, Kurt, I don't think it's clear to wrestle, but the comedy they could do in the segment next week will be great. That's what my prediction is now.
Absolutely. Yeah, can you imagine with all the catchphrases, the thank yous and the shush pleases and it's true, the free eyes. They can have a lot of fun together in the ring. I hope they do something like that.
Can I add one more thing to it? So this is the prediction for next week then. So Kurt Angle, Chad Gable, it will look like Otis is going to attack Kurt and it'll be Kevin Owens and makes a save that leads to Kevin Owens and Otis. That's nice. What I think they're going to do, and it will all be on next week. That's what I predict.
Love it. I think that's a good bet as well. I like that idea, and I think that's a logical booking. So I hope that does go down. Just a quick mention as well. We mentioned Kurt Angle there. Trish Stratus was the one this week. I couldn't help but feel, especially when she said, I'm retired, but I could easily not be retired. Crown Jewel's not far away. We usually get legends in for around those shows. Lita was the one, of course, for the women's division in February. Could we see Trish compete at Crown Jewel perhaps this October, perhaps maybe against Bayley, for example?
It wouldn't surprise me. I think the way she left, like, it was very open, wasn't it? When this match is going to be as such, but based on the momentum she took from that Hill stable, they've got to give her a match. And yeah, Crown Jewel's a good shout, unless this is going to be a WrestleMania program potentially. For me, I don't know if big enough match. Trish Stratus and Bayley at WrestleMania maybe, but it's a match I need to do based on this week. Otherwise, this week's cameo was for nothing in essence, other than a pop.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see. Future weeks will tell us. Underground says, I'm guessing Papa H has taken my suggestion with the entire Dexter Lumis character. What if Miz is not the target, but Ciampa is? With Dexter getting his own back on Ciampa for turning on Gargano. Long-term booking. And of course, long-term NXT booking. If you don't follow NXT, you wouldn't have a clue. But I follow NXT, and like Jones said, I love it.
I like it. It makes sense. It goes back to the roots. Obviously, Dexter's either going to be angry with one or two things. Either A, that he got fired. That's quite a good thing, which is why he's destroying everything backstage. The other thing is obviously he blames them for splitting up. Him and Indy split up. But I like that booking. And yeah, it's not clear where Dexter's loyalties are. Obviously, for many weeks everyone's thought it's been AJ Styles. I said the rest of the this week it was the Miz because I felt in my gut it'd be the Miz, but I don't know where the story's going to go, and he may not be alone based on what we just saw this week either.
Absolutely. And of course, the Wrestling Report is available on delay now on YouTube. Of course, I'm right now for Wrestling's YouTube channel, but stick around with us for the meantime. You can check that out at the end of this video. And of course, I've got a few videos to plug of my own as well. Martin Career here says, after Dexter Lewis isn't also, Dexter Lewis isn't in the roster page like how Gagano is, so the storyline of him not being contracted by WWE and outsmarting the security is something we haven't seen in years and decades. Completely agree with that comment, and of course, that adds integrity to the storyline, the fact that Dexter Lewis isn't on the roster page.
I agree. I think that's really good continuity. There's only one issue I have, right? So AJ Styles, to be fair, for 3 weeks now has been getting attacked. He should be saying, "Where's this guy? What you gonna do to protect me?" All this sort, and he hasn't really had any acknowledgement. He's just been like, "What?" Every time he's been attacked. It's a small detail, but I'm enjoying the comedic booking. I just don't know, obviously, where this goes. It reminds me a bit of when, do you remember when Retribution smashed up the Performance Center and they were like throwing rocks and stuff? It's a bit like that. There's loads of craziness going on, but I'm liking it. I think the rebooking of Dexter Lewis has been really good. And if it is the Sam Shaw from Impact Wrestling we're going to be getting rather than the way Dexter Lewis, I'm a huge fan of that. I think it really fits in 2022 as a character. And Dexter's facials are really impressive.
They really are. Yeah, he's seeing that sort of still face, the moustache, the eyes. Yeah, it's perfect. I really, really agree. Ed saying, if you want to know who these people are, the local competitor on Twitter is a good follow. Maybe I'll give them a follow. Thanks for the suggestion there, Ed. We appreciate that a lot. Perry Kerrick in the house says, what's up, guys? Highly doubt it, but does Loomis build a faction? Also, does we get a Loomis versus Ciampa feud? Is Miz getting a new character by Loomis's help? And unhinged Miz. There's a few questions in amongst that, and a couple that actually I would have liked to have asked had they not come up. So Perry, you're on the same wavelength with me with a number of things here. Thank you for this. Really, really do appreciate it. First off, Loomis building a faction. Obviously, we had the random number 2 this week. Could that be something we could be building to?
I love it. Like me, I love factions. I love a supernatural faction. So yes, definitely, I hope so. Yeah, let's see what they sort of go with that. I don't know if he build a faction. Who would he put it? Is it people that he's brainwashed, so to speak? The guy on Raw that attacked AJ Styles looked very crazy, didn't he? He was shouting a bit like absolutely nuts. And if you look at the vignette of the guy, I'll have to send it to you sometime. Perhaps we could put it on Twitter or something. This guy like absolutely shouts his head off in a lot of the vignettes I've seen. So he kind of fits it. He looks like he's been brainwashed. But yeah, we'll see what they do. But I'd like to see him. He's got to have some help to get in and out of the arena to be able to creep around. So he definitely might have a stable, which will make sense.
And may have an inside source, which someone we do know that's a part of this group, which could be quite interesting and fun. Also, the idea of Loomis versus Ciampa would totally be an idea on that feud. But the question from this particularly that I want to get your next for is, will Miz get a new character with Loomis's help? An unhinged Miz, maybe a brainwashed Miz?
I don't think so. I think this is going to go the same ways. Do you remember when Miz got eaten by zombies against Damian Priest? He kind of went away and it came back all right. I can't see it. The Miz is a really traumatized character. I think it could be quite comedic, but I don't see it. I think the Miz will obviously be rescued. He's taking him for a reason. What's the ransom to get the Miz back? That's the question for me. But yeah, I don't see him as a new character. Although the Miz crying his eyes out, begging to come out, could be quite funny to see. I'm sure a lot of people would actually love that, to be honest.
They should follow the storyline in a way if they can, just to see if the cameras can sort of run after them rather
like
than
the one thing that I would add as well, Steve. Do you know that he obviously went by? He went out. Obviously, Loomis took him. They should have had Ciampa running around the arena after, looking like where is he, and trying to chase. And there was none of that. There was none of that follow up, which it was a shock. That was for sure. It was a shock the way he was taken. But let's see where he goes.
Let's see where it goes. Hopefully, Ciampa makes a play next week, calling out Dexter Loomis or something. That could be quite fun as well. Yeah. Shout out to Martin Career, by the way, asked the same question about the Miz kidnapping. Could to a character change? Something I wouldn't mind seeing, but certainly at the moment we're not sure that's what's going to go down. Anthony says my prediction is that the second person is actually linked to Dexter, and the person I'm actually thinking it is either Cameron Grimes or Roderick Strong. So perhaps someone like that could be involved with the group later on. Obviously, we know that this other person now wasn't one of those two people, but certainly if you have people like that, that could be good use of them to bring up to the Raw or SmackDown.
Do we think this is probably going to sound like I'm absolutely insane? You can tell I've been up all day, but do we think that somehow or another Bray Wyatt is involved in this and it's Bray Wyatt brainwashing Loomis to do his work? Do you think that could play in some capacity, or is that too advanced or too crazy based on everything that's going on at the moment?
I would love to see it. Actually, funnily enough, with the last time we did the Dexter Lumis fantasy booking videos, James, who at the first comment this week in Metropolis, did give a suggestion, the idea of the Wyatt Six, and actually the idea of the Karen Cross return, even along with the Dexter Lumis return, then all could be playing missing pieces of the 6 people that could take over WWE with the help to get Bray Wyatt back on top. So certainly would be something I'd love to see happen.
I've got one last thing. Do you remember when the Miz was being stalked by the puppets? That's what I'm going to say.
Oh dear.
Do you remember that?
I do,
And that
sadly,
was Bray
yes.
Wyatt's puppets. Not for the bad thing, but that would fit the storyline, wouldn't it? If Dexter was doing sort of Bray's work, I don't know how that would fit. Obviously, it's going back to a really old storyline, but never say never, WWE. Like something really weird's going on, clearly, with all this backstage stuff. So there's got to be a payoff. Definitely.
Absolutely. As Underground would always say, LTB, long-term booking. You love to see it. Patrick said, I want to see Kurt Angle wrestle Theory on Raw. I would love to see him wrestle as well. But, any match Kurt Angle could do, just to eliminate the last one that he had.
I was spoiled to see Kurt Angle in his prime. Like, I'm showing my age, but I was absolutely spoiled to see him in his prime.
Absolutely. Have to agree with that wholeheartedly. Cutting on Raw next week. I know it's never going to happen, but what if Jason Jordan's cleared and we get Gable, American Alpha reunion with Kurt Angle as their manager, and no, just Tucker reunion. I won't be as fussed on a heavy machinery reunion, but I would be so in favor, because it'd be like a modern Team Angle as well. I mean, obviously, remember like Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin back in the day. American Alpha felt like they were going to be the next level like that at the time, and with Kurt Angle, if they could mentor, that'd be pretty cool.
It'd be fantastic. Take away Tucker and put in Shelton Benjamin, and that would be a dream stable for me. What a good idea. Underground's on fire tonight with suggestions. Give this guy a job with WWE.
Absolutely. Give him a subscribe as well. He's on YouTube, anyone, and on Twitch. He's told me to promote his Twitch as well in previous times. So there you go. Twitch as well. All there for you. As well, when is the WWE draft? I'm not 100% sure, but around September, October, more likely.
Yeah, I did hear something crazy that apparently with the draft, it's not long after this pay-per-view coming up, but look for apparently TV14 to start apparently as of the draft. I don't know how true that is. Heard it from, I'm going to give a shout out to the channel, Zero News on Twitter. They're coming out with a load of stuff, and it seems to be really credible. So that's apparently he said that he reckons the draft's going to start as of, TV14's going to start as of the draft. Basically everything's going to change. Basically.
Exciting times. You have to see where it will lead to. Martin says, would Triple H stop having opposite branded talent showing up on the other show once the draft is done, or will it keep happening? Well, it's happening quite frequently at the minute. Drew McIntyre showed up on Raw last week, of course, on his day off. He seemed quite happy to be there, but had an awesome match with Kevin Owens. Really enjoyed that match as well. Yeah, what's your take on this? I assume to keep integrity of the draft, you need to have a situation where people aren't flip-flopping. But I think with Drew in the case when he did it, it kind of added up a little bit because he was basically trying to say Roman isn't here when he should be. He's meant to be your champion on both shows. When I win the championships, I will turn up on both shows. So I saw the point of that one. But obviously when you've had these quarterly invitationals and stuff like that with Happy Corbin and all these over the times, it does kind of water down what the draft is meant to be. Jonesy, what's your take on the situation and how do you see it playing out?
I think based on this is a long shot, but based on the logo for Survivor Series, don't know if you had a chance to see that, Steve. It's very much red versus blue this year. That's what they've released for W Survivor Series logo. I imagine the brands are going to be very, very separate. Although I do expect we are going to be getting separate world champions soon. I think they're going to have the world title, and they'll have 2 separate champions, which ultimately will mean that each champion's got a belt, or each brand's got a belt, if that means so to speak. But yeah, hopefully the brands be kept separate, and then we would do get this big Survivor Series showdown. It's going to mean more because there'll probably be something at stake, whether it be a title shot or some sort of entry place in the Royal Rumble, for example. I'm expecting to do something very big with that this year.
Absolutely, I wouldn't be surprised to see NXT in some involvement this year. I'm
That'd
going
be
to
good
throw
as well.
idea now.
Black and gold NXT as well, potentially.
Absolutely, and I know people put it in the streams here before. I've mentioned it in streams before as well. Would love to see War Games brought to Survivor Series. It would just fit that pay-per-view really, really nicely. So hopefully that will go down. Quick one here from Patrick. Will Triple H bring back Ryback? No,
I don't think so.
No, sorry, Patrick. Also, now I'm expecting EC3, Fandango, Breezango, Authors of Pain, Lars Sullivan in Triple H's WWE. Would he bring in those guys also? Of that lot, I'm going to say one name I think would stand a chance, and that would be Tyler Breeze, just purely because of the fact that he's already doing stuff with WWE with the Up, Up, Down, Down YouTube channel with Xavier Woods. But for the rest of them, I don't see it. Maybe Fandango could be the other one to push for more of the fashion files, but I don't see it with any of those, unfortunately, otherwise.
You could put Fandango and Tyler Breeze in the Maximum Male mottos. They wouldn't be out of place. So that's the one thing. Lars Sullivan, definitely not. Last time it didn't obviously work out. EC3, I'm a massive fan of him, but there's something going on with WWE where he's never been treated right, so I don't think so. But no, probably none of these teams. And as for Authors of Pain, obviously one of them went off to start his own promotion. He had a big show that was scheduled in Nottingham this year where he had Braun Strowman, Nia Jax, a few others. there was massive financial issues. It didn't go off. So I don't think he'll come back. Although I love the Authors of Pain as a tag team. They were so good in NXT. I'd love to see them have a chance. But yeah, probably never going to happen.
No, probably not. Gargano works better as babyface than the heel, but that's just me. Could we see a second coming of Daniel Bryan and that WrestleMania one day with Gargano, says Underground? I think yes, and I do kind of agree with him. I do actually enjoy Gargano as a heel because I think he works both roles really, really well, but Gargano is almost the perfect babyface.
Yeah, he is. He's obviously he's able to manipulate the crowd. Look at how good he was as a heel when everyone was thinking he's a good guy and then he turns out to be a bad guy. But his comedy work in NXT is good. He's a great all rounder. But this whole babyface storyline, or where he does eventually get the belt, it's one I'd like to see. I get that feeling of Eddie Guerrero, almost like when I see Gargano. He could do an Eddie Guerrero type storyline where he goes all the way to get the belt. I'd like to see it eventually. I think he could be a good world champion.
Absolutely. You know, it's a magical moment when you go back to No Way Out 2004, Guerrero beating Lesnar.
Yeah.
No one saw it coming. And it's almost seen as a big special moment, just like Daniel Bryan's was at WrestleMania. So, yeah, could see all that playing out there, to be fair. Martin's saying, what I've been noticing is that all babyface turns or talent that are babyfaces aren't that generic anymore. They also feel more motivated. Yet there seems to be like more cleverness. They're not stupid babyfaces as often now. We seem to have some little twists and turns, seeing what the heel is going to be coming and doing. And even the fact with Finn Balor and Dolph Ziggler on Raw this past week, the fact that, you know, you can't teach me anything, but then, you know, Ziggler said, I can. He slapped you in the face, knocked Balor to the floor and says, you come into the ring or what not, you bitch. You know, there's something there about the babyface. They're not just being easily influenced by the heels anymore. But I'm guessing that as an example may give you an excuse to talk about Judgment Day, because I know you're eager to do so.
Yeah, okay. So with the Judgment Day, for me, they are unfortunately a mixed bag. Like they started so well, and recent weeks they're just not really for me. I think them running away from Beth Phoenix at the end of Raw wasn't the best. Their heels should never be running away. But as I said to you off stream, Steve, I'm pretty sure that Rhea Ripley, she isn't cleared to wrestle. If you notice, she's giving bumps out to Dominic, but she's not taking anything. If she was able to wrestle and she wasn't medically cleared, she would have done so with Beth Phoenix to set up a match at the pay-per-view. It's a shame, obviously. I don't know what the issue is, but I hope she gets cleared soon. And I hope this stable get another member. For me, they're kind of losing it a bit. They're not really as good since Edge and Finn swapped over, if I'm being honest.
No, we had the initial big buzz, didn't we, and excitement, but it hasn't really fulfilled the same. But I mean, you know, the little bit of plug time for everybody. I did a video saying 10 W draft moves that need to happen in the 2022 draft. That video is available on the channel now, and I'll give away one of them for you. I said Judgment Day needs to go to SmackDown because, like you said, they've lost the momentum since with everything going on with Edge. They're not really getting the same over. So I agree with it. They're not got the same thing going on for them. But what I would say is I kind of agree with what you've noticed there. You've said that with Rhea Ripley, I wouldn't have said that she wasn't cleared yet, but you saying that actually makes a lot of sense. That's why she's not.
I can only speculate. I'm not. I don't want to speak out of turn or be wrong, but this is obvious to me. I obviously watch wrestling, and knowing from what I can see, if she was able to wrestle, I don't get why I'd waste all this time with her and Dominic Mysterio. Obviously, if she's in the match at the pay-per-view, I'll hold my hands up. I'm wrong, but why would you not attack Beth Phoenix? That was the opportunity to start this up if you're going to do something down the line. It says it already. She's lucky, unfortunately, at the moment.
Absolutely. Do you think that Beth being there is going to set up a mixed tag team match at some point down the line?
You'd hope so. Like, I don't get why she was there if not. Like, her making the save. Let's be fair. If this was the Attitude Era, someone would have gone for her. They wouldn't have cared. They would have attacked her, and they just ran away. They were meant to be a heel stable. This happened a lot. This also happened on Raw with Control, where they're running away. This is my only criticism of Raw this week on both accounts. You've got the heels running away from baby faces, and it's just when did the heels ever run back in the day? You never saw the NWO run away, did you? Not often, apart from Sting. Sting, obviously, but that's an exception, really.
Absolutely. Well, Sting could beat everybody back in the day, couldn't he? He could beat the whole group on his own. But yeah, like you say, it was like he was usually find a way to one-upsmanship somewhere along the line. Even like you said there with Rey Mysterio last week, they had the problems with him where, you know, at start Rey had the chair, but eventually overcome it in the end. Like you say, that this is
I'm up for the underdog storyline, but the baby faces should get their big momentum or comeback at the pay-per-view for me a lot of the time. Yeah. If the heels are running away and it's just a chair, like what chance have they got? Sorry, there you go.
No, I agree with you. Last question I'll ask before we move on then, just to quickly ask, you're going to Clash at the Castle.
Yes,
I'm hoping to get you on for the predictions, which I'm hoping for next Tuesday, by the way, for all those watching. Okay. The question I'm going to ask you, Jonesy, is, would you prefer to see Edge versus Finn Balor one-on-one? Do you want to see a mixed tag team match if Rhea was to be cleared, where we have Edge and Beth versus maybe Damien or Finn with Rhea? Or do you want to see the Mysterios and Edge versus the Judgment Day?
I like to see Mysterios and Edge versus the Judgment Day. I think this is the point where you pay off the heel turn for Dominic. Like, he's obviously been gone. There was no mention of the Mysterios on Raw this week. For me, we saw him in that mess a few weeks ago when the craziness was going on. Nothing's been said since. let's pay off this heel turn if it's going to happen, or do something with that. I'd like to see the multi-man tag. If it's just going to be Edge versus Finn, that'll be fine. I just feel sorry for the others outside. They're a bit like spare parts, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I can see your point of view entirely. Patrick says, I'm hearing that MJF will be at AEW's All Out pay-per-view, but I want to see him in WWE.
It's coming.
You'd like to see him in WWE, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 2024 Royal Rumble, he'll be there. Like, I'm pretty sure that his contract's up. Triple H in control. I'd love to see him in WWE, but I have heard that as well, that he'll be All Out. Expect him to come out after the main event, whatever it is. Although we got the world title this week on Dynamite, I don't know how that's going to end. I've got no idea, to be honest.
No, I mean, I'm surprised because I haven't seen Dynamite from last week
yet.
No, I know. I'm aware of it. I'm aware that, that Kenny returned. I'm aware that CM Punk versus Moxley this week. But so for me, I was thinking that this is where I thought MJF might return this week to build up for All Out, because of the fact that, well, what's your championship match going to be at All Out if you're doing it this week on Dynamite?
They're going to have to do a no contest. I know he doesn't like doing no contests. Like, this match ain't going to happen or something, because this is meant to be the main event of the pay-per-view, unless they do it, and then it's a time limit draw, and then they do the pay-per-view. I'm very surprised. It's a really big match, like, for a Dynamite, isn't it? It's huge.
It's very exciting to see how it's going to go. I cannot wait to catch up with AEW just to see that this upcoming Wednesday. I've got to say, there's a lot of stock in this, because it's like you say, it's very interesting. The reason it's on a Dynamite, and we've had all these big returns. Punker's return, we've had Kenny Omega return. What's left for All Out? It's interesting. And now Gagano's in WWE, so it's not going to be him. Patrick says, will Jon Moxley come back to WWE in the next year? Probably, I'm going to say not, because I mentioned he's re-signed with AEW. His contract was up this year at one point, so I'm assuming he's re-signed.
I don't think so. Like, obviously, Jon Moxley wants to do what he can do. There is a storyline there for him and Roman potentially they could do, but I don't see it. Like, that could be a very good cameo if he did, but if he was going to come, surely he would have refused the contract, and it'd already be on the way, so to speak.
I have to wait and see. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. Tino's time in the house. Tino, I hope you're doing well. Sorry, we're a little bit behind here, so we're only finally saying
it's me gossiping on. Sorry, Steve.
It's me as well. We get too excited when we do these, unfortunately. We get so many great questions, so many great ideas. But Tina, hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. Same as well to Jeremy Hank in the house. Hope you're doing well. 4 things that you will do since Cutting Over returns next week. And also, do we see an unexpected OG term angle, Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas versus the Alpha Academy? Now, that's something that could happen, because Charlie Haas is still wrestling. He was in Impact, I think, earlier this year, again, and Shelter Bencher as well. That could be a fun cameo they could do for a week. They're crying out for another tag team on Raw, so why not?
I'd love it. Like, I remember them back in the day; they were so good. But I can't see it, to be honest. But in terms of Kurt Angle, we kind of briefly covered it earlier. Like, the Chad Gable thing for me, putting over Chad Gable at all costs is what I'd love to see. Kurt Angle as a comedy role. I'm going to put this out to Steve before I leave, sort of probably quite soon. Yes. Do we see WWE adding GMs before Survivor Series? We've obviously got Adam Pearce. Do we see somebody else like a Mick Foley coming back as a GM, so they've got rival GMs ready for this battle at Survivor Series?
I would love it to happen, because I think it needs. For me, continuity comes with GMs. I know GMs have been a bit soured over the years, but when there is a good one, it really helps and benefits your show. When Eric Bischoff was there, for example, back in 2002, 2005, you've had Teddy Long do it over the years. When they're in the right place, they're a right staple of that show, and it really helps build it. I think Paige was the last great one they had on SmackDown before they ditched the GM. She was doing a good job there. William Regal was there for years in NXT. No one ever batted an eyelid that he was there. So for me, I hope that we do get GMs back one day, and I hope that under Triple H, I think they'd be booked properly. Someone like a Drake Maverick, someone like an Andre Chase would be good. Only if Malcolm Bivens was still in WWE, I think he'd be awesome as well.
I agree. If you want two big time guys, how about Triple H and Shawn Michaels, like one on Raw, one on SmackDown? Imagine intensity. That would make that brand that much more. I think that could be fun, but that's me dreaming. But yeah, I think if we put a GM in there, I think quite often back in the original draft, we had this proper brand intensity. It's a lot more snarky when people are nicking wrestlers and they're running around trying to get contracts. I'd love to see that again, really.
Absolutely. Did you say with Shawn Michaels and Triple H at opposite brands, at least when we get a DX reunion for a few years, that would be nice to see. That would be quite good. Absolutely. Jonesy, before you, I know you're going to leave us very shortly because you've got a very early start tomorrow with work. I need to get your answer on this take, because I really can't answer this next question. Like I say, I'm very behind at the moment with the CM Punk stuff going on. I've got no idea. I've not seen Dynamite. It says, Underground says that I know that this is a Gargano video, but I want you both your opinions on this. Is CM Punk a work or not? Now, I know there's been some dissension, but I'm not sure what the details are. Feel free to fill me in, because I've got no idea. What do you think? Is it work or is it not?
So I don't want to spoil too much. I know you haven't seen the show, but I'll put it in a nutshell. Sorry, Steve, as best I can. CM Punk basically came out on Dynamite last week, and he cut a shoot promo on Hangman Adam Page that had no relevance to his feud with Jon Moxley. He kind of buried Hangman Page, called him a coward and stuff like that. So for me, it could potentially be a work. Bear in mind, the only person that's saying it's not a work is Dave Meltzer, and Dave Meltzer is within AEW. Like whenever there's these storylines like MJF flying home and stuff, Meltzer does generally sort of make out as if it's bigger than it is. So it could be a work, but I think for me, when the plans are meant to be supposedly Punk versus MJF that's meant to be the next feud. I don't think it's a work. I think CM Punk went into business for himself. And I think they were just trying to recreate the pipe bomb a little bit, but I think it's genuine, to be honest. You'll have to see the promo, in all honesty, Steve. It's worth a watch. It's interesting to start, to be honest.
It would be unfair for me to comment on anything without seeing it underground. So maybe the next time we do one of these streams, I can answer that for you because, like I say, I want to be fair to everybody that when they're asked these questions, I can give a good answer. But Jonesy, thank you for giving your take on it. How long would you like to leave us at this stage, or would you like to stay around?
Should we do 5 more minutes? Sorry, we'll do 5 more minutes.
We'll do 5 more minutes with Jonesy. Then I will stay around answering the rest of your questions. So don't worry, I'm not moving a muscle. I will be answering your questions. Don't worry, we'll get everyone's that are in, and I hope to try and catch up as well. So see, we're quite behind as usual. Patrick says, by next year, Triple H era of WWE will be the new era, PG, ruthless aggression era, but not the attitude era.
Quite possibly.
Well, hopefully we'll get a fresh era. That's what I'd like to see.
I think we'll get a bit more blood, a bit more cursing. I don't think it'll be as risque as the Attitude Era where we got violence on women, men on violence on women, stuff like that. But I think it's just going to be better. Well thought out storylines, proper heel turns. Look for when all these returns dry out, like, because that's going to happen. That's going to get to a point where the returns stop, where we'll get a lot more heel turns, a lot more storylines, like big shocking storylines. That's the route I think they'll go down. But it's exciting. Like I feel like we're back in the Attitude Era almost. It's just crazy, isn't it? Vince leaves and this happens. The product's fun again.
Yeah, it's what we've needed for years. Martin says it looks like Pyro and intros for Raw SmackDown has come back. So, what do you want to see? Anything else added into the start of the shows? Well, we've got the video package as well for all this week. I like seeing those. They hype up the show for me. I like them being a part of it.
They do. The only thing I like is obviously being an old school wrestling fan is the flashback to last week, the big storyline or cliffhanger from last week. You start the show with that. This is what happened last week, and then you're banned into it, aren't you? You got the pyro. You have to do the pyro on all shows. And the only other thing maybe to do is obviously the show to end on a cliffhanger. I think you've got to do that really for me. As somebody that wants to be looking forward to next week, we had a lot to talk about out this week's Raw. They're continually going to have to do that, like have that big talking point in the third hour in some capacity.
Imagine the feel where we need to be doing streams each and every week to the point that we have to talk about.
Do you remember we were doing Raw reviews sort of back in, when was it, 2021? We were doing Raw reviews every single week. And we were talking about it, and very few weeks would have something to sort of talk about, whether it ended up us talking about Lily and stuff like that. That was absolutely horrific. Compared to what we're seeing now, I feel like it's a different lifetime. It feels like a lifetime ago, and it's only really last year, isn't it?
Yeah, it shows the difference that you can make. Because at that point, I was like, God, do I want to keep watching this? It was tough watch at the time, the start of 2021, but it was no, like you said, we got through it. We managed to get to the other side, and God, we're getting our reward now. Patrick here says, I hope they bring back a unique own stage sets for SmackDown after the draft. I agree as well, and he also goes on to say that he hopes that every pay-per-view needs its unique stage sets and not just big stadiums.
Agreed.
Totally agree.
100%. Like the sets they used to have where the wrestlers can interact, you get that vibe, then you get that feel of it. And I'd like it, particularly if they do like a Falls Count Anywhere match. I think that's the route they're going to kind of go. They need to go down in certain stuff. I think use the backdrop as much as you can. I am going to run now, Steve. Sorry to bail out on you, but thank you for having me again, though.
Thank you for coming on. Like I say, Jonesy Chats Wrestling is on YouTube, is on Twitch, and also is on the Wrestling Report on Rated R for Wrestling each and every Saturday or Sunday. Usually it's Sundays.
It's usually Sunday at 4 p.m. But yeah, just look on Twitter, catch me on Twitter, and you'll see when it's on. But thank you all for the questions. Thank you for having me, Steve. It's been great, mate. I look forward to catching up with you next Tuesday for the predictions, mate. I'm sure it'll be fun.
It's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it indeed.
Thank you so much.
For Clash. Take care, mate. All the best. And everyone else, I'm staying with you to answer the rest of your questions.
Enjoy, guys. Thank you
so much, mate.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy. We've got here, Patrick was saying that Braun Strowman is a great wrestler. I think he's okay, but I wouldn't call him a great wrestler. I think, like I said, I think he was over like Rover in 2017 and 18. Unfortunately, it changed when he got to about late 2018. After Money in the Bank, things just sort of spiraled from then. He's just bad booking move after bad booking move. If they can eradicate that on a return, then perhaps maybe they can get the train rolling again. They're doing it with quite a few superstars right now. Nubico saying Asuka is most likely to turn heel or change up a character. I mean, Asuka, but her characterization of Asuka fans, unlike her current character, but critics definitely don't like it at all. I'm fine with the current Asuka. I mean, we talk about Asuka quite regularly on this channel. I'm fine with it at the moment. I think it's been quite fresh, but perhaps maybe with the draft, you could shake things up a little bit, maybe a little tweak here and there. That would be a good time to do it. She would have been back then nearly around the 4 to 5 month period. So I certainly wouldn't mind a heel Asuka at some point. Move her to SmackDown, go against Liv Morgan. That would be a lot of fun personally for me. But I'd like to know people's thoughts. What do you want to see with Asuka? Babyface, heel, what do you like? Dancing Asuka? Do you want to see like a Kana Asuka? Or do you like the NXT undefeated Asuka? Everyone, let me know in the comments now. We'll come to it as I catch up with everyone's comments. Underground says, SmackDown's lacking on talent for me, so Santos Escobar and the rest of Legado and the Mysterios should be getting drafted to SmackDown. Would love Roderick Strong versus Drew Gulak at some point to start off a SmackDown. That'd be a great match. Yeah, I totally agree with Strong and Gulak starting off SmackDown. And with the draft, obviously, I think Triple H will fill SmackDown more out. I think that a lot of the big names from Raw will go to SmackDown. Some of the SmackDown big names will go to Raw. And I think we should get a more balanced roster at the end of the draft this year. But I expect SmackDown to win the draft. Like you say, they are missing some talent. But you could see all of those on SmackDown. Certainly would be against it. If it's right now, then, of course, Escobar, I think, will go to Raw. Patrick was saying that Braun Strowman is a draw and he's a huge superstar. He was so popular on YouTube. Maybe popular on YouTube, but as I say, we will have to agree to disagree on that one. I think that he's all right, but for me, he's not the biggest in WWE by any stretch of the imagination. Russell Red says, I like how they didn't let Ray or Dom Sharp in the Edge versus Damien Priest match. As did I. I like that you rule people off TV for a while. And they ended with cliffhanger with Beth and Rhea, just like people thought Santos was going to debut. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like you say, that Santos was going to debut last Monday, goes on to say, by the way, for everybody. Yeah, like you said there, it's good to have where it's a good, clean fight at the end there. We had no shenanigans. I suppose you can argue why Judgment Day didn't get involved, because they weren't barred from ringside. The heels could have got involved, but from Edge's side with the Mysterios, like you said, they were beat down before this match. It's good to sell the injuries. Riddle did it for Seth Rollins. They had a good brawl at the start of Raw this week as well. So there is stuff going on where there is some good continuity with storylines, cliffhangers, like you mentioned, Russell. So yeah, totally agree across the board there with a lot of what you got to say there. Martin saying also how do you feel about the chaos at the start, middle, and end of Raw and SmackDown lately? Love it. We've got something to talk about instantly. We come on the show and we think, God, we're here. We've got to almost put your seatbelts on quickly, like you're going in the fast lane when you're in the car. You're not going sort of to gear things up. You're going straight into the fast lane. So yeah, for me personally, I think it's a great way of they start these shows. In the old days, you felt like if you missed 10, 15 minutes, you'd missed something or a lot and you were lost to what was going on in the show. I like that they're doing that lately. They're giving us something where we feel, right, okay, we have to be here. We can't miss it. And like I said, it doesn't matter if the start, the middle, or the end of the show. And that's what's making these shows so watchable. Underground says, I know this sounds outrageous, but Dexter Lumis, this generation is Diamond Dallas Page with this entire stalker gimmick. He certainly could be. I was worried where you were going with that with DDP at first. I didn't see him as the people's champion, but with a stalker gimmick, certainly could be right. Like I said, I'm excited to see where that gimmick is going to go. And Noob saying, because Asuka's feud with the four horsewomen has been very tiring and very repetitive. I would agree with that. Asuka is in a lose scenario, in fact, in those feuds. And Asuka's feud with Shayna Baszler or Ronda Rousey or Liv Morgan would definitely fresh things up, Noob. I would agree with you. We definitely see fresh feuds for Asuka going forward. I think that would probably help some of the fandom as well. Like, you know, you don't have to change much of Asuka if she's got some fresh matches going on. So like you say, all those three on SmackDown, Asuka going to SmackDown makes a lot of sense. Randy says here, can't wait for Gunther versus Sheamus at Clash. And shame that Jonesy didn't get to see that, because I bet he can't wait for that as well. He will be there at Clash. But also how crazy it will be if Gunther retains and then Timothy Thatcher's music hits. Liking that. Add Ginny as well as a valet of the UK takeover SmackDown. We'll have to wait and see how it will go. Obviously, I don't think we're going to see Ginny anytime soon now. I thought she would have been part of Maximum Male Models, but with Maxine Dupree was someone else in the end there. I forget her name off the top of my head, who she was before. Yeah, for Gunther versus Sheamus, yeah, I think that could steal the show. Really, really looking forward to it. Breaking news, Butch is coming back and is returning as Pete Dunne. Funny, I read it online. Can you source it for me, Underground? I really appreciate if you could source that for me, just so we know where that has come from and we can establish which source and how legitimate the source could be. But certainly, if that is the case, it could be very exciting. Many Pete Dunne fans, I'm a big Pete Dunne fan, think he's done great work as Butch, though. I won't lie, he's maximized his moments, but at the same time, Pete Dunne coming back would not be a bad thing. Dylan Ketchum, how you doing, mate? Good to see you. It's been a long time no see. Gagano vs. Ciampa under Triple H feud for the world title. Would love to see it. I think someday it's a potential. Ciampa has been certainly going up the ladder in recent weeks since Triple H has taken control. I think definitely a mid-card championship is in his future. Gagano mentioned about being a workhorse champion, so that probably could be the starting point of it. But you look at many feuds over the years, even Austin and The Rock started with the IC title in '97. Yes, I'm showing my age now, but of course they eventually went on to be headlining WrestleManias. Gagano and Ciampa, they have a lot of history. I expect that one day will be a WrestleMania match. But for a world title, One can only dream. Martin says it seems like Raw has at the moment too many top tier baby faces, and SmackDown has one in Drew McIntyre. So how should Triple H approach fix it? The draft. Simple. I agree with you. There is far too much star power on Raw to the point that people are stuck in the mid card. I won't give too many names away on this video, but certainly one that was not featured on my draft video that could be in line for a draft move, I think could be Bobby Lashley as well. If you move Lashley and Gunther over to opposite shows, you've got the mid card titles changing over as well. And Bobby Lashley is someone I think eventually will be taking on Roman Reigns, but certainly he's not the name I've mentioned in my draft video. Make sure to check that out later on if you haven't seen it already. James here, and how's that doing? Well, James says how brilliant it will be if if I was Hunter, I would bring Breeze and Fandango to invest where Miz is. That's really cool with the fashion files. Love that. People said that on Twitter with the fashion police. It's a brilliant idea, James. For me, love it. There's nothing really I can add to it apart from it's genius. Anthony, I disagree, but for me, I feel the Gargano promo is Triple H lulling the fans into a false sense of security, thinking Johnny is a babyface when really he's going to be a heel, and this was all fake. Ooh, well, I tell you what, I would fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. If that does happen, Anthony, you will definitely see a shocked Steve when it comes to one of these live streams. But certainly, you give me some food for thought there. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out with Gargano in WWE. Martin says, what style rules would you put in the WWE draft if you were to book it? Really good question, this one. Obviously, the draft at the moment, there is really good. I love the podiums. I really love the podiums. I love the fact that we draft pick this person. But I do feel there's a lot of dead air in recent drafts when we see, and we're going to pick Roman Reigns for SmackDown. He was already there. We don't need to have him back there. So for me, I feel that that's a bit of a shame. When you look for the likes of, say, previous years when we had the sort of generator with the screen, that was always quite fun to see that happen. But I think for me, the best way to do it, I like the podiums more. I like GMs in place. And I would like for those shows, yes, I know it's not Survivor Series, but Raw versus SmackDown matches in different variations, the winner gets a draft pick. But perhaps maybe depending on what is going on, they can't just pick like a certain tier. Maybe they have like a pool of names that they can choose from. Maybe that could be the way to do it. Because obviously, if you have, say, Raw says we pick Roman Reigns, and then SmackDown goes, well, we want Roman Reigns back, we'll have him back, or we want then this top tier champion, all the champions just change shows. It can be fun, but it can be messy. So I think a certain pool of superstars should be what's made available. And maybe trades as well should be something that should be looked into also, because for a draft, you don't always get who you want. So doing trades could be quite interesting. I think if you were looking in the previous years of WWE, I think with 2005, for example, you used to see, instead of a draft where everyone was just 1 week to another, you'd see certain superstars just turn up like the superstar shakeup, but they were actually traded in. So there was a reason for them to turn up on the show. Then you got some big shocks and some big moments. So I think it's probably a mix of everything. But I do like the podiums, but I think they just need to eliminate a lot of the dead air time that they get with it. So if they can do some creative ways to make draft picks, to get us fresh draft picks, that would be quite nice. Maybe you can't draft pick champions. Maybe that could be a way they could keep those people safe. And then the only way they can do so is if the champion wrestles on those shows and loses. Maybe that could be a different way you could go as well. Anthony says, honestly, what I can see happening is Kurt Angle returns with the Creed Brothers debut in Pittsburgh and Kurt as their manager. Great idea. That's another great suggestion that could be done there. The Creed Brothers would definitely be something that would be great for that tag team division. If they were to lose the NXT Tag Team Championships some point further down the line, they would be a shoo-in for a call-up. And certainly the breakup of Dynamite does look on. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea. James says, do you think Seth versus Riddle at Clash of the Castle will be a weapons match at Clash of the Castle or fight pit or anything? Judging by what we've seen so far, I would say Falls Count Anywhere would be the most likely, but I think they will keep it in ring. I don't see there'll be any stipulations if they haven't announced it at this point. So I reckon if they don't announce it before Raw, I don't think that anything will happen on the go-home show personally. But yeah, Falls Count Anywhere would be the one I would pick if they would do anything. James saying, watch out for Gable Stevenson. Also, he could also be managed by Kurt Angle. Certainly a name that popped in my mind, James. I think that's a great idea. But we haven't seen anything of Gable Stevenson since WrestleMania. So let's see if he will turn up on Raw this week. Of course, he is drafted to Monday nights after Raw. Underground, if Trish Stratus ever wrestles again and at Crown Jewel, give me Trish Stratus versus Sasha Banks, Trish Stratus final match. That's a match I would really, really like to see Underground. I think that's a great suggestion. In fact, even Tino loves that idea. Book that match ASAP. In fact, do it on your YouTube and Twitch channels now. We'll all go over and check it out after this stream. But one other match I want to see, and I know this probably won't be to everyone's taste, but it's one I want to see, is Trish versus Alexa Bliss, just because we were told we were getting it originally for Evolution. Then they mixed and changed it to the tag team match, and then Alexa was pulled completely. The fact it was a match that I thought we were going to get and we didn't get makes me want to see all the more. But definitely those would be a couple of matches I'd want to see. I don't want to see Trish versus Bianca Belair and Bayley, but just have her come back for a run. Just do a run in WWE. And Becky Lynch. Trish could do all of the matches. I want to see all of them. Martin says here, do you see a change of demographic with Raw and SmackDown in a year? Potentially possible. I mean, put it this way, Jonesy said there's a potential that we could go with TV14 shortly. For me personally, I'm not expecting the TV14 thing to hit in majorly, but I'm willing to be proven wrong at this point. Tina says, what do you see with the biggest draft pick this year? Well, that would be giving away some of my video options, wouldn't it? But I'd say I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. And the reason I give this one away, she's on the thumbnail. Ronda Rousey to Monday Night Raw, I think, will be the biggest draft mover this year. And then when Becky Lynch returns, we can start building to Rousey versus Lynch at WrestleMania 39. And just very quickly, while I'm talking about Ronda Rousey, the idea of Ronda Rousey meant to have turned heel recently, and since WWE have booked her as the perfect babyface since, because everyone is cheering her against Adam Pearce and security. It feels almost like WWE can't get it right, but certainly they're doing something right. Fans are cheering her at the minute. So long may that continue. Put her away from Liv Morgan, put her on a different feud, and put her on Raw. Martin says, with Triple H in charge, do you see some casual viewers that enjoyed the Vince booking era to keep watching? That's an interesting take, because, of course, there will be people that love the way that Vince McMahon book shows. And if they look and see this way and go, it doesn't connect with me, like, who is this Johnny Gagano? Who is Tommaso Ciampa? They may not be connected to these characters. They may have wanted to see. I mean, we had mentioned there earlier the idea of Braun Strowman. That's the sort of sports entertainment, larger than life person we want to see. Almost it's a larger than life person on our screens. Even if not the best wrestler, it's a spectacle. It's a wow factor. These, smaller wrestlers, less than 200 pounds, these cruiserweights, maybe some people don't connect to it. But for me personally, I'm going to say that I think people more will connect to it than not, because I think they've got the narrative that work with it. If the narrative works with it, the storylines, the cliffhangers, the things that keep you on the edge of your seat, you can get any character over. I'm not going to lie to you. Many people said that almost not the greatest wrestler in the world, but you know what? If you put him in the right storylines, even if the matches are terrible, you're interested in seeing it. It was perfect in the 80s. When you look at people like Zeus, for example, who couldn't wrestle. Giant Gonzalez was a big marquee match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 9. I'm sorry for people that this is far too old school for, but at the same time, it just goes to show that if you can book people the right way, you can get them over. And I trust in Triple H's methods of booking superstars, whoever they are. James says Underground is right, because after that match, Lumis took Miz, and then we went to Johnny's music playing after that. And I see what Hunter is doing, and they say that Johnny wants to beat the US champion too. There certainly is clues if you want to connect the dots. We'll have to wait and see if it will play out Underground. You will deserve a big pat on the back if it does play out true. Patrick says, do you see Theory as Mr. Kennedy? It reminds me of Mr. Kennedy. Theory is great. If he said Theory twice, absolutely. But I can see where you make the connection. Certainly a cocky heel in that way. And someone's not afraid to put himself out there in front of the crowd in his cockiness fashion. So I can see the comparisons personally. I just hope he's not a comparison when it comes to the briefcase. As you know, I want him to cash that in. Patrick here saying that what are they doing with Pete Dunne? Where is he? He's still a part of the Brawling Brutes at the moment on SmackDown, but of course Sheamus was going solo in that Fatal 5-Way this past week. But yeah, let's wait and see how it will go down. But if Pete Dunne is coming back, let's see how it's going to play out. Because for me, I'm very excited to see how they would fit him in current WWE, because Triple H knew how to book him in NXT and NXT UK. Great to see conversations as well going amongst people with the chat. It does help the algorithms here on YouTube. So feel free to have a chat with yourselves as well, to go with people's suggestions and people's comments as well. Answer the questions, give your takes. It's good to see what people are thinking. Also, drop a like on the video if you haven't already as well. It does help, like I say, this channel grow. Really, really do appreciate everyone that is supporting SCW. Martin says, do you think that in a couple of years we will see a new evolution of women's wrestling with the young blood like we saw with Becky, Sasha and Charlotte in 2015? Yes, I do. And I think we're already starting to see it. I think we're seeing some great evolution. If you want some great people coming from an NXT, the likes of Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade is in there. some great female competitors that are on the verge of coming up as well. I mean, Zoe Stark could be there. I think that Gigi Dolan has got a bright future in WWE, particularly. So yeah, I think that we will have an evolution of women's characters. We've already seen the transition with the likes of Bianca Belair in there. We've got Asuka, we've got Alexa Bliss, Rhea Ripley's a part of the people outside the Four Horsewomen. So we've got these transitions here, and we've even got people on the main roster that could be pushed better, like Shotzi, great in-ring performer. So let's see how it will go down. Newpit saying that I don't want the long-term booking scenario. I don't know. I don't know what the long-term booking scenario is, but how Asuka is getting back at Bayley for what she did to Kairi Sane. Since Io, Sky, and Bayley. What if Asuka and Charlotte were to team again? That would be fine. I mean, that's a team we've not seen play for a while. That would give them something to do as well, especially if the split in the draft. Asuka and Alexa Bliss, for example. Asuka and Charlotte were a team, and Charlotte said that she was friends with Asuka at the time. So that's certainly an idea. But I do think that the Kairi Sane stuff probably is long gone to be. I don't think they'll ever address that again. Of course, she's expected to be competing in Stardom any time now. Tina wants War Games back. I do as well. And also he's talking Underground. There's a lot of chat here in the chat, and I love to see it. Underground saying, talk about Dexter Lumis, a group with Bray Wyatt, Dijakovic, and Lumis. Would love to see it. Apparently, Dijakovic is getting repackaged, I've heard, on Wrestle Talk and a couple of other places. Have to wait and see if that will come to fruition. But in the moment, he has got a new render on WWE's website, which is awesome to see as well. Tina reckons that'd be an awesome group, by the way. Martin says maybe Triple H will do the scenes like how the Attitude Era to use Dexter's kidnaps. Perhaps we will have to wait and see. I mean, that's the thing. A character like Dexter Lumis gives you the ability to do that sort of thing. You can sort of blur the lines. You can perhaps go a little bit over the line if you want as well, perhaps a little bit over the edge, to use an old reference of a pay-per-view. But Dexter Lumis certainly will be interesting with the kidnaps. I'm like I said, I'm excited to see how it will play out. And certainly looks like a full-on hide and rack. Who remembers hide and rack on Michael Cole back in the day? Probably going somewhere on YouTube or Twitter, and it's painful watching. Kofi in the house as well from the Dirty Heels podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. Says, we live, baby. We are indeed, and hope you are keeping well. Also, we need Raw and GMs for Raw and SmackDown after the draft. Patrick, I do agree. Who do you guys want to see as Raw GMs and SmackDown GMs? Well, I mean, I would say Drew Gulak would be a fun one for one of the shows. I liked Sonya Deville in the role as well. I thought she was very good as a GM personally, but I think she wanted to get back in ring. I thought Paige did a good job before she left. Adam Pearce is okay, but just okay. So let's go for some names here and actually fix them. If I can't have Sonya Deville, because Deville and Gulak could be my two choices, I would go with Gulak and Andre Chase. I think that definitely would add some flavor to the shows. There is a lot of talk here about this group here with Lumis, Bray Wyatt, and Dijakovic all having similar gimmicks. Feast your eyes. Lumis looks into the camera when he's coming to the ring, and Bray Wyatt, when he speaks to you, you can't take your eyes off him. Loving that there. It's a great idea. It shows a great vision there, Underground, you've got for wrestling creativity. Anthony says, do you think any young talent in WWE can pull off the light cheat steel gimmick that Eddie Guerrero did as a babyface when he got away with heel tactics? It is done quite often in wrestling still to this day. For me personally, I don't think that anyone could do it because we see it so frequently with superstars randomly here and there each and every show. There's actually a TikTok video going around as well, two wrestlers that were actually doing that, threw the chair to the referee and threw themselves to the ground. A referee came in the ring and chucked the other referee out of the arena to finish off refereeing the match himself. I thought it was quite funny, very, very stupid, but certainly was a fun watch if you can find that on TikTok. What I'll do is, if you know my Twitter handle at SCW_Steve, I'll post that after I come off this stream. Drop me a follow as well while you're at it. Underground says the White Six. We have Wyatt, Lumis, Dijakovic, Cameron Grimes, Joe Gacy, and Bo Dallas. What a group that would be. Martin says, is the Judgment Day faction limiting the ceiling of Damian Priest? Look at his US title run. It wasn't the best, but it was newsworthy. He was winning some big matches, wasn't he? He beat Drew McIntyre and Sheamus this time last year in a triple threat match. I thought Priest was going to go on to win the Rumble at that point. Then they got to Survivor Series and they sort of changed this sort of Jekyll and Hyde gimmick, and he sort of was going a bit weird and getting DQ'd all the time. That ruined it for him. And then obviously going to Judgment Day helped it. I think he's in the mid-card area at the moment. I think he still could go for one of those championships. I just think right now they need to be out of the feud that they are in. And I think, like I said, a move to SmackDown would help Judgment Day a lot. And I think For example, Priest versus Bobby Lashley. If Bobby Lashley got traded as well, that'd be a match that would be really, really fun to see. And I think that wouldn't be out of place in the current WWE climate. Also, Underground says, bring back the Authors of Pain in WWE and Paul Ellering, killer tag team back in NXT. They certainly were at the time, but whether they would be good to go now, I'm unsure about. Chris says, make a good point. Highly unlikely, but what if Lewis is in force with a return Wyndham, but didn't Bray face Miz before, like SCW said, which was right. Yeah, Jonesy did bring that up, and he was correct. They did face, I believe that was TLC 2020. I want to say maybe 2019, one of the two. And yeah, I mean, there was some weird storyline telling going on at that point. And yeah, for me, I don't see the connection, but of it actually happening now with Lewis and Bray. But the thing is, if I'm honest, as a fantasy booking idea, I thought it was genius. And if it did happen, I would jump out of my seat. I'm not going to lie to you, but if I said to you it's actually generally going to happen, sadly, I don't think it will. But hey, it is what it is. Martin says, both of your conversations and videos are a few that gets me excited for wrestling. Thank you, Martin. That means a lot. And I'm sure if Jonesy does check this back afterwards, he will appreciate that comment as well. It's always fun to talk professional wrestling. It's always fun to do these streams as well. And to be fair, without all of you in the chat that get involved, and so many of you as well, come to pretty much all of these streams as well. Without you all, these shows would be nothing. So we really, really do appreciate you getting involved. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for the kind comment as well, Martin. Patrick saying Wade Barrett for a GM on Raw and would be a perfect fit for SmackDown and Pierce. That would be really cool. That would work really, really well. I didn't mention Wade Barrett, but that'd be fun. Nigel McGuinness would be fun as well. Speaking of UK, we're throwing the Brits in there, aren't we? Nigel McGuinness, of course, no longer with NXT UK. Now, if they're going to fold that up and do NXT Europe, maybe he'll do that. But at the same time, Nigel McGuinness could be fun. He did it with Ring of Honor where he was booking matches, so he could be quite fun for the role. But Wade Barrett, that would be a fun one as well. Certainly. He's got some bad news for you. You're going to go in a one-on-one match with Roman Reigns or Dexter Lumis or whoever they want to put on week. Martin says, I have been ignoring the shows before Triple H took control. It felt like WWE wasn't heading anywhere with the weekly viewers. But the good thing is now everything is must see. Totally agree, Martin. Everything does feel must see now. And that's what makes these streams also really exciting because we've got so much to talk about. And if you notice, these streams are going a lot longer as a result of it. Chris says, you see SCW that Wade Barrett won a fight with Drew McIntyre, but how does that if Wade Barrett shows up Clash of, how dope would it be if Wade was to show up at Clash of the Castle? Also, Bret Hart on the bump on Wednesday, which is interesting. Yes, Bret Hart is on the bump, is he? Was totally unaware of that. I'd be interested to see what he'll have to say on there. Bret Hart would be a fun one, wouldn't he? But I don't see him doing the road again for GMs or anything like that. But if Barrett was able to do one more match, him versus Drew McIntyre, would be something I would be very keen on seeing. I was a big fan of Wade Barrett back in the day. Underground here saying Raw GM Triple H, SmackDown Shawn Michaels, Survivor Series, Ciampa versus Gargano, WWE versus Universal Champion, and Paul Heyman and NXT GM maybe. Certainly wouldn't be against it, but sadly, I don't see it happening. But you know what? With those two as the top GMs, to say very quickly, with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, if they did do that, do think that would bring ratings in. I do think that would make a bit of a game changer rather than just putting some people that could just naturally fit the role. If there's some big names in there, that would help ratings just a touch. We still need to change the Raw and SmackDown theme songs. Is it me or did Raw change it? And they've got a new one this last week or 2 weeks. I'm probably not hating it as much as you, but I understand the SmackDown theme has been around for a while. Maybe it could be changing some point in the near future, but I couldn't answer that for sure. Martin, he says, also, Gagano's return is really satisfying for weekly viewers. It keeps them from not only watching, but also a reward for the viewer for it. Absolutely. You feel like you're getting something out of these shows. You feel like there's a reward because we wanted Gagano. We wanted to see him back. I want to see some of the other people come back. I think you'll get the same feeling if or when Sasha and Naomi do return to our screens as well, because I think they could be the next big high-profile ones that could come in. Richard Robes, thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you're doing well. Robles, hope I've said that right. Let me know if I'm wrong. Hope Gargano faces Finn Balor for the vacant Money in the Bank contract so that Theory gets fired. Clearly not a Theory fan, but certainly Gargano versus Finn Balor is a match I would definitely like to see. And what's to say Gargano doesn't want to fight for the Money in the Bank contract against Theory, with Theory rubbing in his face at this past Monday night on Raw. Underground says, imagine if the Attitude Era comes back and Riddle, RKO, Becky Lynch, Rollins is there handcuffed to the ring like Orton did to Stephanie whilst Triple H was handcuffed and book it. Believe it or not, that was in the PG era in 2009. If you're going with Randy Orton there, that was actually in the PG era, believe it or not. But I get your sentiment. When they did risque stuff like this, it got you engaged each and every week. But it's a surprise sometimes what more they can get away with under the PG banner. People think the Action Era was fully TV-14. It wasn't. There was a load of PG stuff in there. WWE could push the envelope a lot more under PG, but under Vince, they chose not to. Under Triple H, you can already see they're starting to do it. Patrick says, when Karrion Kross is going to wrestle in WWE. And this is my understanding of this, and this is going to be my Tom Colohue source of the day, because I always like to throw his name in once with I get the information from. And I believe he said the Karrion Kross at the moment, this is the one thing that is going week by week. This is the one storyline that has kind of been a little bit dented, because Drew McIntyre, I think, is carrying a back injury at this moment. Karrion Kross now is more watching McIntyre from afar, rather than actually getting so much involved like he did at the start when he came in. Karrion Kross versus Drew McIntyre is the long-term vision of a match in WWE, so we probably don't have to wait too long for the match to take place. I expect at Extreme Rules that match will happen, and probably to build it on Road, we'll probably get Kross in action a few times on SmackDown. But when it will be, we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, the video packages they are putting on there for Karrion Kross are pretty darn exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with him. And hey, you know me, I love making a thumbnail. I love making a render. Karrion Kross's one has dropped, and I've got that one there today. I'm looking forward to doing some Karrion Kross content in the near future. And Richard says Rey Mysterio might make a deal with the devil. That is Gangrel, right? Let's hope he doesn't make a deal with Gangrel. We're not seeing Gangrel on our screens for a very, very long time. But hey, we'll have to wait and see what will go down. Obviously, Edge was a part of the Brood back in the day, so it could fit the storyline quite nicely if they want to do a cameo. But yeah, I can't see it, if I'm honest. Martin says, well, going to head out, Steve. Hope you're having a good one and keep releasing those great videos and create so much excitement in this community. Thank you so much, Martin. Hope you're doing well, my friend, and hope to see you soon. I will look to do the stream for a maximum of another 30 minutes. So I'll try and get through as many questions as I can in that time. Elijah in the house, hope you're doing well. Elijah, thank you for checking us out. Who are some of the Raw SmackDown Mount of Female superstars you'd like to see get repackaged? Also, Piper Niven back, Nikki Cross, and a returning Killian Dane. And that's a great shout. Killian Dane, bring back Sanity. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? I'd like to see that. But yeah, you've got two of the main ones there for me. Piper Niven, Nikki Cross will be two that I'd like to see. I suppose now that Karrion Kross is back, we won't get Nikki Cross as itself, but maybe a different variation of, maybe it could just be Nikki Ash, maybe instead of a.s.h, maybe, could be what they could do. I mean, Djokovic is one that we're expecting to take place. I would like to see some repackaging of perhaps some people like Cedric Alexander. It's not doing a lot at the minute. I think Mustafa Ali is a great mouthpiece. Could be great for a heel run if they wanted to do in WWE. And Kevin Owens, as well as the prize fighter, is being repackaged already. And I hope they repackage him to be further up the card. Just because they're repackaged doesn't mean they're not being booked well already. Super Pony in the house says over under 6 months before Kevin Owens is world champion. I hope you're right, my friend. I'm a big fan of KO. Would love to see him win the world title once again. Underground says Roman Reigns retains at Clash of the Castle against Drew McIntyre. Solo Sikoa helps Roman retain. Solo Sikoa main roster debut. Never say never. And why would we ever say never? We wouldn't, would we? The Usos will not be there. They are not allowed to travel to Clash of the Castle, which is why we don't have a tag team title match. And that's why they weren't in Canada this week. They weren't allowed to be outside the United States. So that's why they weren't on SmackDown. So this would be a way to get him out of it. Obviously, Sami Zayn did sort of try to protect Roman this past week on SmackDown. But Solo Sikoa would be an option that they could do. Where is Austin Aries, says Patrick. I'll be honest with you, I've got no idea. I couldn't tell you about that one. I've got no idea. And Austin Aries, I'd love to see Austin Aries in WWE. Will Triple H bring him back? I don't think he would. I think, to be fair, there has been some stuff on dirt sheets regarding Austin Aries in the past that may stop that. Now, I'm not going to go into any depth of what they are because I've not got any of them handy to use as evidence. But what I would say is that I personally don't see Austin Aries coming back to WWE at any point. We've got Anthony. Maxine Dupree is Sophia Cromwell from NXT. Thank you. They changed her name when she debuted on the main roster. Thank you for giving me that, Anthony. Really, really do appreciate it. On the Mark Wrestling Podcast, I'm late, but Johnny freaking Wrestling. Absolutely. Massive fan. Too Sweet Carl is a big fan, as I know all of them are, of Johnny Gagano. In fact, 2/3 of On the Mark Wrestling Podcast actually have photos with the latest meet and greet with Johnny Gagano before he rejoined WWE, and it's on their actual Twitter page. So yeah, go give them a subscribe on YouTube as well. Fantastic wrestling podcast. Not been able to watch them live the last couple of times they've been going, but certainly was watching them on delay. They do good stuff. You won't be regretting it. Anthony says, Steve, if W and Triple H come to you and ask you to book Raw Underground, how would you do it? I'd tell them, are you sure? It'd be the first thing I'd say to them. But what I would do is with Raw Underground, if you were to do it, I would have rules. I would make it. I would make it almost like the Lions Den back in 1998, an MMA style, but with rules, with regulations that you can if there's no rules, for example, that's totally fine with eye gouging and all that sort of stuff, no DQ style, but have it in a cage and have it where someone is pinned, submitted, or TKO. Something like that would be fun. There'd be no pole dancers, nothing like that. There'd be no silly things that they were doing where they'll cut it after 30 seconds. You'd make it its own segment. You'd make it something to go down. And if it was Raw Underground, I'd find a way where you could make it where a TV audience could still watch it. That's what I'd want to do, because having it where it's not in front of the audience in actual WWE's arenas, everyone's just watching a screen. Everyone's losing happiness and momentum of getting behind what's going on in the ring. People get bored, so you need to find a way to do it. So whether it's kind of in and around where the entranceway is, or you've got a little section somewhere backstage where you do have a small section of fans that can make some noise and really make it lively, that could be something that could help it. But personally, I personally wouldn't bring it back. But I have just noticed your second comment go on to say, how would you book the Lions Den of Fight Pit matches if they were to come for you, specifically Triple H and Creative? I would say that the Lions Den would be the best way to do Raw Underground, as we said a minute ago. But with the Fight Pit matches, I think Triple H might bring one in at some point. And how he would do it, how quick they could do the transitions of the ring ropes and stuff like that, I'm not sure. Maybe again, they would. I think NXT at one point had the ring and they had it sort of in the aisleway where they had the Fight Pit before. That could be a way that they could do it. That's probably how I would see it happening if they were to bring it back in. Patrick also goes on to say, I hope Triple H brings in the Inferno match, Monsters Ball match, Iron match in the main roster. I think Monsters Ball, unlikely to happen, being part of Impact Wrestling, but Inferno matches, we got one, I think, was it with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton? That was TLC 2020. There we go, got that for you. Bray Wyatt, of course, was Miz the year before. And the Iron match, I think, will come back in at some point. The problem was the last time they did one in 2018, fans crapped on it because they treated it like the Royal Rumble every time, counting down the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And it kind of ruined that match between Rollins and Ziggler from a viewing point, especially as a pay-per-view main event as well. Elijah says, how do you feel about we get a manager and a valet back from WWE? Do you like it? Also, Maxine Dupree managed Los Matados. Can get B, and how do we feel about Santos and Los with EO and the new LWO? Some fun fantasy booking ideas, Sophie Elijah. First off, with Maxine Dupree, I don't see her going with Los Lotharios. I don't say, though she may be wowed by them, I don't think she will stay with Maximum Male Models. She was even wowed by Hit Row this past week. I still think she'll remain with Max Dupree and the Maximum Male Models for the time being. As for Santos, with of course his group, maybe with Raquel in the group, that could be quite fun. They do wear the LWO t-shirts very often when they come to the ring, but of course they will still remain Legado del Fantasma. Do you think Hulk Hogan, the newest GM in WWE history, is as rumored? If that is a rumor, I don't see it happening personally. No, I would say that very, very quickly. I don't see Hogan coming back to WWE. Only if they do it, it'd be a very short-term thing to actually go on the road each and every week. No, and I don't think the majority of people would want to see it either. And I am speaking probably out of term. I should be speaking for myself, but I don't want to see it. What about Miz-napping the Miz? Fantastic there, Mike. Disliking that comment there. We'll have to see what it's going to lead to next week. We've had a host of conversation on this in the early part of the stream, so we'll just keep it brief here and say that I don't know what's going to lead to, but certainly if we can get some videos of how this was, maybe Dexter filmed it himself, seeing Miz suffer and stuff like that could be quite fun. I hope that W is watching this and says Miz-napped next week on the screen, and we can give you a pat on the back for that. Underground says, would love to see Bronson Reed back in WWE with Triple H in charge, as would I. Definitely, he was getting massively over with his splash finisher as well. The Tsunami was getting over big time. I'd love to see him come back. Totally agree with you. Patrick says, I hope Triple H brings Mr. Kennedy Carlito to help some WWE new superstars. If they're going to actually aid them with trainers and in that role or in managerial roles can help, but to actually be in ring, for me, I think it'll be taking away TV time for other people. We'll have so many more people coming back already, and I think they will get a few more current superstars. But Carlito looked in great shape the last time he was around, so hey, maybe it could work as a one-off. What we'll say is, to make it happy here, have both of them in the Royal Rumble next year as surprise entrants. Chris says, Lewis kidnapped the Miz, and then the Miz gets repackaged. Michael Mizanin, his real name, and he could be a smiling wrestler like Susie or Jessica in Impact. absolutely loving your work there with that. I think that could be a lot of fun. But the Miz has been the Miz for forever now, and if it's not broke, in my opinion, don't fix it. I do like what he does. Anthony says, what tweaks would you make to Raquel Gonzalez's character? Would you have as a babyface or a heel or a tweener? Heel all the way for me. I would love to see her as a heel back to Big Mama Cool as she was previously in NXT. I think Smiling Raquel, for me, just feels very generic. That's personally what I feel at this stage. But hopefully we will see Raquel back to her best with Triple H in the pencil once the right opportunity comes around. Dexter Lewis needs to kidnap Byron Saxton. Loving that. Yeah. Although Byron Saxton was quite spicy on commentary this week. He actually said to Corey Graves when Corey Graves said he would smack him, "I'd like to see you try. I've seen you wrestle." Well, that was a great comeback. Byron Saxton usually takes it. Good to see him coming back. Certainly, though, I think a lot of people would see the funny side if Loomis was to do that. Certainly Corey Graves as well. Jameson Byrne in the house, it says, sup man, it's up to you as well. Hope you're doing well. Oh my God, Hunter is a genius. What if this Loomis thing seeds for Survivor Series and this can become a Nexus-like storyline like Wade Barrett is back as the manager? Or what if Loomis used Miz? Loving the idea of this being with Survivor Series and Nexus-style storyline. Perhaps even you could get like NXT Black and Gold. So many of them have come into Monday Night Raw and SmackDown all actually working together. Fun idea for that. But Wade Barrett is the manager as well. Oh, the Black and Gold. That was the colours of Nexus as well back in the day. So yeah, Jameson, loving your idea. Did someone say on the chat? I did on the mark. I did indeed. But I didn't do the swearing that he usually does. But you never know. If you get the right questions, you might get it out of me. Will Low Key return to WWE, my man? I would say unlikely at this stage. He was there, wasn't he, as Caval, I believe, back in the early 10s. And it didn't work out too well for him, even though he was the season 2 winner of NXT. But yeah, don't see it happening. Dexter Lewis needs to kidnap Dana Brooke and the 24/7 title and burn it. Hopefully the 24/7 title you're referring to, not Dana Brooke. I'm actually a fan of Dana Brooke. I think she could be used much better in WWE. As for the 24/7 championship, I wouldn't be surprised if Triple H was to win it in the near future. My goodness, do you think Randy Orton could return at Clash at the Castle? I believe his injury is long-term. I think it's more likely he returns at the end of the year, and I think Randy Orton will be going for the championship at the Royal Rumble in a singles match. Hopefully then, either as a teammate or as an opponent, he can be back involved with Riddle going into WrestleMania. Richard says Dexter Loomis needs to kidnap Finn Balor, and then Edge burns him down. We've got a lot of Dexter Loomis kidnapping people here in this stream. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but certainly there are a lot of suggestions. And Dexter Loomis, if you're watching this, certainly you've got some people that people in the chat would like to see you take out. James Lewis says, what if Loomis used the Miz to get him a contract? That could be good, an intriguing storyline. And Joe, I'm cutting you off there. That's a brilliant idea there to get a contract, just taking superstars. He tried with AJ Styles, didn't get his luck, but the Miz was there. The unlucky soul this past Monday. That's a creative idea, Jameson. Really like that a lot. Miz is the leverage for him to get that. Does Loomis kidnap Theory? And Johnny takes his briefcase like NXT days. What if they are doing like the way stuff? They could make something like that work. I don't think that Loomis and Johnny Gargano currently are in cahoots, but certainly that would be some fun fantasy booking. But certainly loving all of that. That seems really creative. Anthony says, if you bring back Wade Barrett as the Raw General Manager, you can bring back that power-hungry gimmick that William Regal had have Wade when the King of the Ring like Williams did. Yeah, you could do that. That'd be a fun idea. And of course, Wade Barrett is a former King of the Ring winner as well. I believe that was, I want to say 2015, 2014, around that era. But yeah, certainly you could do that. I think there's a lot of mileage you could do with Wade Barrett as a GM. I think that would be a lot of fun. My goodness, who are the 4 or 5 guys that you think are the most important components to keep the mainstream audience? The most important things, the most important components, storytelling for me is number 1. I think a coherent story is something that people can follow, people that will be interested in going. I think that you need to have the right people pushed. The superstars are important, whether it's that they are presented in the right way. So it's not just the story that leads to, but when you see them on the screens, you look at them and think that's a superstar. So that's another component that's really, really important. With those storylines, I like something that makes you talking coming out of the shows, or something that makes you need to tune in next week. So cliffhangers is another component. And number 4, I'd say surprises. We've got a big surprise on Monday Night Raw this week. It's why probably most of you tuned into this stream, because we started talking about Johnny Gagano for the first 15 to 20 minutes of the stream, and he still pops up here and there, still now in the comments. Tino's time, isn't it crazy to think that Road Dogg back DX is pretty much in charge? Yes, they are. And I mean, Road Dogg, of course, has been touting himself about, but of course, if rumors are to be believed, I think he was always set on going back to WWE with Trips, of course, once he was in charge. So yeah, Road Dogg is back, and yeah, let's see what they do. They were kind of outrageous back in the day, DX. So let's see what they can do with creative now. Obviously, with the stuff they did in NXT was a lot of fun. Let's see if they can make that transition well to the main roster. Like I say, we're probably going now to the last 20 minutes of the stream now, and so we'll be wrapping things up there. So we'll get in your questions while you still can. Drop a like as well if you haven't liked the video already. It really, really does help the channel grow. Randy Samuel in house. Hope you're doing well, Randy Sam. It's good to see. It's been a long time no see. How crazy this 2022 became. Think about Vince retired, Triple H back, Stephanie also, and now HBK is the Vice President of Creative, and now Road Dogg is back. DX Takeover, really strange, but I thought of what if this Loomis leads to give Johnny back with Ciampa, and that way he kidnapped the Miz. He couldn't get to Ciampa. Interesting. He could bring back Johnny Mundo back to help the Miz. Johnny Mundo to help the Miz would be quite fun. I would say that. As going for the stuff you said at the start there, 2022 has been a crazy year. It's been drunk on wrestling news. We've had so much to talk about going all the way through. So yeah, long may it continue. And it feels like we've got lots to talk about with much coming as well. We've got the draft coming up. We've got Survivor Series been announced today. The tickets are released for WrestleMania. We're going to start to get to Royal Rumble season. So lots of things are going to happen. It's an exciting period in wrestling. And to lead here with Dexter Loomis, that storyline could literally go anywhere. Anthony says, is there anybody in the current WWE roster that you see pulling off the world's most dangerous man gimmick for Ken Shamrock or Brian Pillman Sr.'s loose cannon gimmick? Interesting question, this one. I mean, Kevin Owens could be a quite good loose cannon if you want. He certainly, when he's the prize fighter, certainly will do whatever lengths it takes to get there. But as the world's most dangerous man, trying to think of your MMA fighters at this particular moment, I think that could be what would work. But obviously, Ronda Rousey, not the world's most dangerous man, but certainly is one of the most dangerous in the octagon. Of course, she is someone that is the baddest woman on the planet. So that, in theory, is a Cameron Shamrock-like gimmick already, I would say, at this particular point. Underground, Kota Ibushi is going to be a free agent soon. Does Papa H run Kota Ibushi versus Cedric Alexander? Never say never. Never say never. I reckon that's a possibility. Obviously, the Cruiserweight Classic was the way to push Kota Ibushi. He didn't want to come, I believe, that time to WWE. Now Trips is there. Maybe he might. And I think that Triple H would definitely get a tune out of Kota Ibushi in WWE. Would love to see it happen. Will it happen, though? I think it'd be more likely he would go to AEW. Thanks for the rub. Anytime indeed. And thank you guys for checking out the stream. Always appreciate your support as well. Austin Aries is in Control Your Narrative, Steve. 2 favorite wrestling shows. I haven't seen any Control Your Narrative. Let's be honest, Randy. I've got to be honest with you. Should I go out my way? In the chat, let me know. Should I go out my way and watch Control Your Narrative? It feels like, though, I'm not sure they've got a lot of mileage left in them. Underground says, Clash at the Castle. On the line, 2 falls. First fall for the Universal title. Second fall is for the WWE belt. Roman wins the first to keep the Universal, while Cross wins the WWE belts, pinning Drew to keep Roman safe on the second fall. That's my guess. We'll see. I mean, it's getting so close now to Clash of the Castle. It feels like it'd be a shame at this point to take away that one-on-one match they built for so long with McIntyre versus Reigns. But never say never, Underground. It could still happen. Of course, Cross is watching both of these guys as the chosen ones from afar. Christopher Run in house says Vince is a legend, but Hunter Takeover has been incredible. I don't know what has happened in the coming weeks, but also returns who got injured like Cody and Orton. It's going to be interesting. I don't know what he's got planned. Well, it's interesting what will be planned with Triple H with this, but of course the injury curse is still happening, like you say. It's a shame the injuries keep happening because obviously the roster was really, really filling up, and we've got some top stars on there. And some of the top stars, like you say, Cody, Orton, WWE be even stronger at this point if those people were still around. But let's wait and see. But yeah, we can't deny it. Vince is a legend, but it's been needed for that Triple H takeover for a long time. Patrick says, do you like the rivalry between AJ Styles and Roman Reigns, the club, and the Usos in WWE back in 2016? I believe you're referring to. Yes, I did, and I would love them to run it back. I don't see it happening with AJ and Paul Heyman in the same program, but personally for me, I'd love to see AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns in the main event one more time. Underground says that Sarah Logan is ready to be the third member of the War Raiders. As if you didn't see, she was the person that was in the video package last Friday, Steve. Must admit, I didn't notice her in there, but hey, you've got to keep an eye on everything, haven't you? If she does come back, that would be interesting. And certainly to be a part with this group would be more of a good fit for her at this stage. Obviously, we couldn't have the right squad back. And for me, wouldn't fit right now. Liv Morgan has definitely moved on. So if that did happen, let's do it. I'm all for it. Shahid in the house. Hope you're doing well, Shahid. Great to always have you involved. It says, who will be the next NXT superstar coming up on Raw? Perhaps next week, he's even suggesting. We'll have to wait and see. From NXT, Santos Escobar would be the most likely favorite, just purely for the basis he lost the loser leaves NXT. Tony D'Angelo would never lose, but Santos lost, he would. So it looks like Santos would be the most likely at this point. Christopher here saying UK retired NXT Europe. That would be intriguing. Sucks UK got to be retired, but this has been a crazy few years in wrestling. I don't know what's going to happen at Clash. Maybe a surprise. I'm expecting we may get some surprises, Christopher. Excuse me, at Clash at the Castle. I still hope for a battle royale. I still hope if they did a women's one, they could get Tegan Knox in. I think that'd be fun for the hometown crowd. But at the same time, to look at things, I mean, the last time we did this, people were talking to me about why there was NXT UK, the fact that we weren't over the tapings, there should be an NXT Europe. Lo and behold, within about a day, it was going all over the place. So it's quite fun that was being talked about the last time. So yeah, I mean, it is happening now. NXT Europe is going to be happening. WWE effectively killed the UK market, it feels, at some point. But there are some great UK promotions still out there. We'll have to wait and see if the UK can actually rebuild and recharge. There's some great talent now that is going to be available to take indie bookings once again. And of course, with NXT Europe, we'll have to wait and see what they'll do when it comes about next year. But from my understanding, some exciting talent are looking to be put onto that roster, but I am not here to give any names because I'll be honest with you, I'm not aware of who those names are. Just been told that it's exciting talent that they are looking to get on those brands. Underground says Sammy looked like El Jericho there. Michael Cole last Friday on SmackDown. You tease. He was a tease, wasn't he? But I've got to say, Sami Zayn has to turn babyface. Goodness, I know it was in Canada. I know it was like Sammy's like hometown crowd almost, but the fact was, if that doesn't scream to you, Sami Zayn, the babyface, could work in the perfect way. Sami was the MVP of that show in every way. Him with Roman backstage was hilarious. Him in the Fatal 5-Way was fantastic. It was a great match. And just the way it was done, I felt like I was watching NXT Sami Zayn for short moments. And I just want to see that guy come back. I really, really do feel that Sami Zayn could be a top guy in WWE under Triple H. I know it may not seem it overnight, but definitely with a good year's booking, they can make that happen. Patrick says, do you see Mauro Ranallo coming back to WWE? Honestly, no. I think that the schedule is probably not something that Mauro would probably want to take on. He was more invested with NXT at the time when it was like the blocked tapings. And obviously then he wasn't around when I think it became a live weekly show. It's the commitment side of things. I think Mauro has his fingers in a lot of pies, does boxing, he's got his podcast. Mauro was always fantastic on Twitter, by the way. I don't think he has a Twitter account anymore, but he always put his time out for everyone. The amount of times you used to ask Mauro a question, he'd actually reply to every single tweet. He was a great guy on there, and I really wish him well whatever he's doing, because he always used to quote tweet a lot of the stuff I would do, even though I had like about 4 followers at the time. So Mauro was a great dude, but I don't see him coming back to WWE, sadly. But would he come back for a one-off? That could happen, and I would love to see it happen. And he says, for me, 2 gyms I want are LA Knight and Wade Barrett. 2 great talkers and 2 that would do a great job. And LA Knight is a fun superstar choice for me that I think you've got there. LA Knight, for me, would definitely be a fun one in that role. Christopher says, Hogan is a legend, but no, I don't want him in a gym. Nothing, he ain't killing Triple H like he killed TNA. Exactly, Christopher. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Underground says, LA Knight should be a wrestler, not being a manager. I agree with that long term, but as a mouthpiece, he is excellent. I think in any role where he's got a mic in his hand, it's always good TV. So if we're saying like as a manager or as a GM, I think he would make the roles work really, really well. But I do agree with you. Eventually, I want to see him get into the wrestling ring, and I think he will do now that Triple H is in charge of creative with WWE. Richard says, I hope Triple H brings back the Good Brothers in WWE history, have them in WWE. Well, I'm pretty sure that Finn Balor, AJ Styles will be very much in favor of this. Whether they come back, time will tell. They are not signed with Impact Wrestling anymore, although they are still the Impact Tag Team Champions. They need to drop those championships. I believe Carl Anderson is the Never Openweight Champion in New Japan as well. I am a very casual New Japan Pro Wrestling fan, though. I tend to come around for the big events and then I sort of disappear into the background again. So I couldn't tell you if they're signing with New Japan long term or not. But will it happen? Time will tell. They, of course, they were around in 2016 up until 2020, wasn't it, or 2021? Whenever the pandemic was, WrestleMania 36, whenever that year was. Patrons hate the way that they are booking LA Knight in WWE. Well, Max Dupree right now, of course, is the mouthpiece of Maximum Models. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not going to lie. I don't hate it. I think they are starting to do more with that group, and I think eventually they will do more of their group once the draft has taken place, because at the moment, there are actually too many teams on SmackDown and not enough on Raw. That's not to say I think they'll necessarily move. LA Knight should be beating Bobby Lashley to win the United States Championship. Could happen at some point down the future. We'll have to wait and see. That would be interesting. We've got Anthony, give it a pen and paper when it comes to Raw Underground, hence the name Underground Temple. Well, you fill your boots Underground. I'd love you to do some fantasy booking for that. Can you do the Raw Underground on WWE 2K streams? Is there a way to make that happen? Let us know in the comments. Dexter Lewis kidnapped Tony Khan. Goodness, you imagine that would be interesting. A great way to start AEW. Are they working the Forbidden Door after all? Dexter Lewis is a great wrestler. Certainly, he has great characteristics, which makes him great. Absolutely. Christopher says, I hope that Lewis kidnapped Corey Graves. Lol. There's more suggestions here of kidnappings here. I'm starting to worry. Kidnapping commentator, how will he get out? We'll have to wait and see what will happen. Tina with another kidnapping going on here. What if he kidnapped Vince and that's how Triple H became in charge? Is he going to have the whole basement full of people? Well, that certainly could be like the Big Brother house, couldn't it? Would we vote who was got out of the basement each and every week? I'm not sure. Do you still have Big Brother in the States? We have it. He's coming back in the UK in the fall. Patrick says Dexter Lewis kidnapped Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn. Well, it will explain some of the changes in WWE, although they're still there at present. They are still there. Dexter Lewis is the funniest guy in WWE. He seems to be the funniest in our chat as well. And he's also thought as better than R-Truth. Christopher Run, I'm sorry, SCW, but this man, this is how I grew up on wrestling. Intricate storylines, good matches, and promos. That's how we got invested. Interesting. Watch this Loomis thing going. Same Roman and Drew thing. Well, the thing is, I grew up the same with intriguing storylines, good matches, and promos. Those things are integral to what makes a good wrestling show. So, you know, those things are needed to make things good. And this Loomis storyline, let's see where it's going to go with Roman and Drew. I've enjoyed the build they've had. You know, Drew wants to be the guy on both shows. He wants to hold both belts. They're really playing off this part-time deal here. And I think eventually that means they are going to get one title off of Roman. But will it be at Clash of the Castle? Will Roman lose both championships in front of near enough a hometown crowd for Drew McIntyre? That remains to be seen. Underground says Dexter Loomis out here kidnapping people and has a line of people in his laboratory. Do we see Indy Hartwell as TT? We'll have to wait and see. But didn't Indy Hartwell in NXT last week get a piece of paper that's to do with Index? She got really, really happy. And I'm wondering if that's going to play into a storyline that actually isn't to do with Index. Maybe it's someone else that's actually teasing her at this point. That would be quite fun storytelling if they were to do that. Christopher Run, I like your Impact predictions for a pay-per-view with Josh Alexander versus Eddie, but Scott, if you hear higher SCW, I like Impact also. I'm glad you like Impact. We don't get enough Impact questions these days, actually. We used to get loads of them in the streams. It has dried up a bit recently. I think there's been so much going on in WWE and AEW that I think Impact has probably taken a back seat. Even for myself, I've not had as much time to watch Impact as of late, but I've got back into it since the build to Emergence. I made sure I caught up on everything, watched Emergence, really enjoyed the show. Now we're on the road to Battle for Glory. I'm loving that we do have Josh versus Eddie. Thank you for actually mentioning as well. That video only came out an hour before this stream. So anyone that's not seen that and is an Impact Wrestling fan, go and check out my thoughts on what I booked for Bound for Glory for those Impact predictions. Do you like the match card? And let me know what matches you want to see for Bound for Glory in the comments of that video. C Nation in the house, sorry, late, just finished a lot of homework. School always comes first, my friend. Never apologize for that. The grades are important, so make sure you do that. You can always catch these on delay, and there's still time to get a question or two in. In fact, what I will say is get those couple of questions in. We're going to go on for another 10 minutes. I keep delaying it a little bit, but literally 10 minutes after C Nation's put a couple of questions in, and maybe you've put in one more question in, everybody, stop the questions so I can get through everyone and I don't leave anybody out. Richard says AJ Styles joining Judgment Day is confirmed. He did attack the Mysterios and saw Edge first before Dominic gets in the locker room. That'll be a different storyline. It certainly will be in long-term booking as well, because AJ Styles has been very distant from Judgment Day in recent weeks and months. Of course, since Edge was kicked out of excuse me, since Edge was kicked out of the group. Liv Morgan went missing as well, although it seems to have worked out pretty well for her. Rick Bang in house says, I love all wrestling, but I thought, let's start that again. Sorry, Rick, apologies. I love all wrestling, but what I thought of, what if PCO turns face and joins with Heath for the Josh versus Eddie match for the world title, and PCO is like Frankenstein, and Heath is the backup also for Impact. Certainly could see PCO leaving Honor no more. I think that there will be a feud with him and Eddie Edwards. I'm predicting that'll be a Victory Road, and you could see potentially Heath and PCO as a duo. And I'm not going to give too much away, but maybe, just maybe, I may have put them as a team in my Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory predictions for the match card. So go and check that out. Also, underground here, going on early ones, Pillman's loose cannon gimmick has to be his son, Pillman Jr., as for Cameron Shamrock, the most dangerous man, Timothy Thatcher, maybe. Those would be two interesting names you could put in. Pillman Jr. needs to get a bit of a more mean streak for me. I've not really seen that mean streak in AEW, but certainly maybe that'll come back at some point. Do I see Tom Phillips come back to WWE at November 2022? Depends when his contract runs out with Impact Wrestling, if that's the time it runs out. But for me, I think he's doing good stuff in Impact. I don't want him to leave there. I like him in Impact. Shahid as well, yeah, of course. If Karrion Kross wins at Clash of the Castle with the WWE title to Raw, I haven't seen him included in this match as of yet. So I believe it's still just Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at this point. If Karrion Kross does get included, then that would be quite interesting to see if they would do something like that. But at this moment, I believe it's still Drew versus Roman. Someone please tell me if I'm wrong. And here we go. C Nation's got a couple of questions. I am glad that Johnny Gargano returned to WWE, but it was at such a random time. And that's what I loved about it. It was so shock out of the blue. I love when you have these just a surprise. Sometimes you need storyline reasons for things, but the fact is Johnny Gargano is someone that people wanted back in WWE. You thought you were getting it last week. You didn't get it last week, so you kind of had that sort of lower bar this week. No one saw it coming. Even said it on Twitter, Johnny Gargano, I wanted to do it when you least expected it. And he fooled everybody, and he got everybody talking. And I think that can sometimes be a really fun, organic moment in wrestling. We need more of those moments. Not every week, but we need them here and there. C Nation, the Good Brothers are probably dropping the Impact Tag Team titles to Honor No More at this week's tapings for Impact Wrestling. Didn't realize it was this week's tapings. So, yeah, I can see that possibly could be likely. I would say that would be a potential title change there. I agree. Rick says, SCW, do you like that Manager Valdez are back in WWE, which is missing for a long time? And do you like Johnny's return without no spoiler? I was shocked. To be fair, I was shocked as well. I wasn't expecting to hear the music at that particular moment. But as I said at the start of the video, it really helped the third hour of Monday Night Raw, because that's usually feels like a bit of a long moment. This week we had Johnny Gargano return. We had a big main event. We had a big video package for it, hyping it as well. The third hour felt very important on Raw for the first time in a long, long time. So for me, I was really a big fan of it. As for managers and valets, I think they have a very key role in WWE. They can protect superstars that are not good at talking, maybe not fully established, maybe can help people win matches, protects people that are losing. So there's so much that you can do with a manager and valet. It's good to see they're getting more use once again. C Nation says Dexter Lumis kidnapping The Miz was funny. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens to The Miz, but hopefully he will be back. WrestleFan 2007, Johnny Gargano should defeat Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship. Could happen. Could happen indeed. We'll have to wait and see. Bobby Lashley will drop that championship one day. Johnny Gargano could be the guy who could drop it too. It wasn't Ciampa. Could it be Johnny Wrestling? We'll have to wait and see. Tino's Time. You watch Big Brother, Steve. The best show ever. I've watched every season since 8 here in the US, and they're now on 24. Wow, that's a lot of them in the States. I've watched, I think, one of them in the States, which was shown in UK TV. So I can't say watch the US ones, but I have seen the UK ones, and they usually are a lot of fun a lot of the time. We've not had it in the UK for a few years now, but I believe it is returning in the fall, as I said. I reckon it's around September time. So you never know. If you've got a good VPN in-house, Tino, maybe you might be able to find a UK Big Brother as well. That might be something that can, something you could check out maybe at some stage. We'll have to wait and see. And maybe if you let us know when the United States one is coming back, maybe I can find a way to watch that as well. Certainly have watched a little bit of the USA's Love Island as well, just if anyone's interested in that. Yeah, probably not. C Nation says that he's a big fan of Dexter Lumis. I'm really enjoying the run so far. It's really going above and beyond the expectations of what I was expecting to see. Patrick says, can you imagine Dexter Lewis beating Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Universal Championship? I really can't, but everyone's kidnapping everyone in this stream. So to be fair, Roman Reigns might as well be added to that list. But if I'm being honest, unfortunately, I do not. Impact Wrestling is my favorite wrestling company right now. So please don't. Why would we make fun of you for that, C Nation? Why would we? Impact Wrestling are a very good company. They do some great underrated, they've underrated. They do some consistent shows each and every week. Each and every pay-per-view that they do has been, great when I've watched them. And to be fair, the thing for me is I've just found difficult time to watch them sometimes. I personally am not a person that would make fun of them. And anyone that does make fun of Impact Wrestling, in my opinion, in the current day, they're not watching it, because if they watched it, they would realize there's actually a good show there. And superstars that they're perhaps seeing fail in WWE or other companies are being booked better in this company's how perhaps they could have or should have been booked if they were in WWE and would be seen and taken a lot more seriously. And you've also got some great up-and-coming talent like Ace Austin, Josh Alexander. We can name plenty of them. There's fantastic talent in Impact. Speedball Mike Bailey, one of my favorite wrestlers of the year. And Christopher likes all wrestling too, and that's what's good to see. I love that we see everyone that loves it. And do you know what? If you don't love all wrestling and you like one thing, that's fine too. Enjoy the company that you watch. Wrestling is to enjoy. We're all here together to watch pro wrestling together. So let's all give support to all companies and not bash anyone for what they do like. Like I said, even if your thing's controlling narrative, if that's your thing, that's great. If Raw Underground is your thing, that's great. Even if those things are not my things, if you enjoy them, that's brilliant, and I like that. Did you know Luchasaurus was on Big Brother? Well, I didn't know that. Tino, did you know that? Let us know in the comments below. Sinison says, if Karen Cross does get added to the Undisputed WWE title match at Clash of the Castle, I will be super mad. Well, he would be jumping straight in the deep end, wouldn't he? I think it's too soon. I would leave it until afterwards, personally, if it was me. Rick Bang, if I'm Hunter, I'm let Dexter Lewis kidnap Byron Saxton, bring Nigel on Raw commentary for Clash of the Castle. Lol, Triple H, are you hearing? Well, Nigel McGuinness for that show would be awesome. So I'd be a massive favourite. I think that'd mean a lot to Nigel as well. Even a cool one match would be fantastic for him. Oh, right. No more questions, guys. I'm going to just do the last few we've got in, and then we'll close up the stream. But just very quickly before I do, I just want to say to make sure to keep an eye on the channel as well. We've got already which WWE superstars should move in the WWE Draft 2022. We've also got which ones could be called up from NXT to Raw and SmackDown coming up on Thursday on the channel as well, which superstars should not move in the WWE Draft. There are plenty of videos coming on the channel once again. The live streams are back. It was a very crazy week last week, and that's why I was unable to do as much content as I wanted to, but it's great to be back with you now. C-Nation says, Ciampa wins the United States Championship from Bobby Lashley and defends it against Johnny Gargano. Would be perfectly fine with that. Would love to see it. Jack Haynes in the house. It's good to see you, my friend Jack. He says, did Raw become good because we don't have Omos anymore? SCW, I'm hearing that Veer Mahan could be repackaged under Triple H. And if so, let Zelina Vega as his manager and almost a SmackDown. Those are some creative ideas. Almost a SmackDown I can see happening in the draft, actually. I think that's a definitely a realistic shout there with MVP. As for Zelina Vega, I like her work with you got to say as well with MVP, by the way, for almost a SmackDown. But with Zelina Vega, I'm a fan of her in-ring work, I must be honest with you. But she did a great work as a manager as well. With Veer Mahan would be fine. If only one day we could get Andrade back and actually her and Zelina together. Him and Zelina together would be awesome. Although I imagine we'd have Andrade and Charlotte Flair in the modern day. Who was the guy trying to kidnap AJ Styles? Do you know what the name escapes me? It's higher up in the stream nation. You unfortunately will have to rewind a bit, but what I will do, give you a ballpark. It's between the 20 and 30 minute mark in this video. It's somewhere around there. Someone did give us the answer to that question. Some people make fun of other people if they like Impact Wrestling. Those people are not good people, unfortunately, C Nation. So those people, don't associate with them. That's what I'd say. Patrick says, in which channel do you watch W Raw SmackDown in the UK, or you watch it online or Watch Wrestling, or potentially streaming sites? I guess you're referring to there. For me, it would be BT Sports would be my place of watching it. That's where it's broadcast in the United Kingdom, along with NXT as well. In fact, a lot of W programming is actually put on NXT, as I would use the WWE Network for when it comes to premium live events. As well, I love Impact. I've watched it since 2007. No one should make fun. Like AJ Styles said, I want all wrestling to grow, which he is right. but I hope for Impact versus WWE. But AJ said, you never know. I mean, if it could work for WWE, that's the thing. It needs to work for WWE for them to do a relationship like that. But certainly, they worked together earlier this year. Mickie James being in the Royal Rumble. Yes, they said the Impact Women's Champion instead of Knockouts Champion. But hey, it was still a massive deal at the time. It helped their Hard to Kill show, if you remember. Mickie James, the Unprised was main event, was rightly so. So yeah, they do some. They've done some good stuff with the relationship they've had. Impact Wrestling is doing good stuff as well. Fans since 2007 as well. Some great stuff that's gone on in and amongst throughout the years. And to be fair, I haven't watched all throughout that time. I started myself, if anyone was interested, started in 2010. I took a break from 2011, came back in 2013, and I followed it on and off, near enough, all the time ever since. Sinister says most Impact Wrestling haters haven't watched them since 2011, and that's very, very true, I would imagine. Underground says, Sinition, JD from NY206 is one of those people who makes fun for people like an Impact. Honestly, like every wrestling company, we as fans are lucky to have so much to watch. And to be fair, that's probably the first and only time you'll ever hear JD from NY206 mentioned on this YouTube channel. It's not something I like to make a habit of. I don't personally watch his content. Tina's Time Underground, yes, and he was in love with the twins. There you go. There you go. That's some more Big Brother knowledge for anyone that's a fan of American Big Brother with Luchasaurus involved. What season was that, everyone? Let me know. Maybe we can find that up somewhere. We can dig it up and see it online. Random Samuel, give me a rating for that water that you how drinks gives them. I can't even read anymore. It's getting 2 hours into the stream. I'm losing it now, I'm afraid. I'm really sorry, guys. But the rating for that water that's in hand here, 10 out of 10. It keeps me going. Otherwise, the stream probably would have suffered from about an hour in, and probably would have been even earlier. Tina's Time, he dated one of them for the whole summer and then said she became crazy. There you go. Steve, last comment. I hope Bandito kills in Impact Wrestling. I'm a massive fan of him. As am I. I think he'd be awesome. And he's someone actually I didn't actually take into account when I did my Bound for Glory match card, fantasy card predictions. I could add him into the X Division Championship match, I could say, but I did actually put him in the graphic for the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. So there we go. A couple of teasers there for you. Go and check out that video if you haven't already. Last two, 3, 4. Oh god, there's still comments coming in, guys. These will be the last comments. I will go at 5 more minutes and then I will have to call it from there. I do thank everyone for what you're putting in. Who do you think defeats Gunther for the IC Championship? That's a very difficult question at this point. I can see him being champion for a very, very long time. I will actually say, god, it's actually really, really difficult. I'm going to say Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker will be the guy, and I reckon he'll do it at WrestleMania. C Nation, Omos is banned in the ring and he's banned on the mic. He just has the look. An attraction sometimes, though, is enough for the casual viewer. It's not necessarily enough for the hardcore fan. As you see, we take into great detail of what people are good and bad at in ring in WWE. Underground Temple, Pete Dunne beats Walter for the IC title at WrestleMania. Underground, you said on Pete Dunne about returning. Can you give us the source now? I'd love to know the source of where you saw that. It'd be really, really interesting before we close off the stream today. Also, Jason, Mike, SCW, we're talking more about Benix and Loomis, then Mox versus Punk Rock. There's a lot of discussions been going on this. And Jason, if you've missed anything, I do highly recommend to go back and check it out. I look forward to seeing all the build-up with Mox versus CM Punk. I haven't seen AEW recently, so I'd like to catch up on it. In fact, that might be what I'll do after we finish this stream. Although I'll probably go to Underground Temples. I think he's fixing a Raw Underground match for Trish Stratus versus Sasha Banks on his W2K as we speak. C Nation says that Sheamus should beat Gunther to win the Intercontinental Championship at Clash at the Castle. Overdue that Grand Slam Championship win. And that's a really good point. That would be really interesting to see. Maybe that might happen. We can't rule that out. What place it would be for Sheamus as well. Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Let's be fair. I don't think it will happen. I'm predicting Gunther at this point, but I wouldn't be against if it was to go down. Let's give Cody Hall a WWE debut blast to give WWE Universe a boost. That'd be interesting. I've not seen much of his work. I'd be up for seeing it. And also, Paul Levesque in the house here. Triple H, we've been hoping you'd be checking out these videos. There's so much fantasy booking stuff. Underground Temple in particular, I think would like you to check out some of the fantasy booking ideas further up in this stream. I know you're not the real Triple H, but still, we're going to play along. What's up, nice Rebel Heart? We were all singing along to it this past Monday on Raw. Also, WrestleFan, thank you. Pete Dunne gets his win back from Volta, and then we get Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate at SummerSlam 2023 for the IC title. Man, we can dream. It's great to see Tyler Bate in NXT. Looking forward to their worlds collide. Also, loving the ideas coming in. WrestleFan loves the Underground Temple ideas. Underground Temple is on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure to give a subscribe and a follow. Luchasaurus should have stayed as a heel. He was starting to become a threat. I do agree, although I do feel the heel turn may just be a ploy. I think he may actually aid Christian come at All Out against Jungle Boy, if that is the match that's going to go down. Big Brother 17. Thank you, Tino. I will be doing some research on that, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. Also, I do like this comment that's come in. Paul Rest, did you get my email regarding being part of the booking staff on the main roster? Steve is a backup when it comes to myself having a great mind for the booking, etc. Backup, I want co. I'm only involved in one co here underground, but I do appreciate the sentiment. Paul, make sure it is. And he says, Temple, yes, there we go. I'm loving it. Seems that Paul Levesque is very, very popular here. And of course, he does say Rebel Heart is back, as it certainly is. And our last question we're going to take here today, then, I do see Emma come back as Neil Dashwood on SmackDown with Moss as her valet, SCW wrestler. Well, she could be back as a wrestler if she was to. Of course, she's no longer with Impact Wrestling at this point. Of course, she's been quietly let go. The contract has expired. No understanding if she will come in, but certainly I'd be a fan of her coming back in. She had a great start with NXT when it first NXT arrival, the match against Paige, arguably the match that for me started the women's revolution. That's my personal opinion of where I think it kicked off. And I think for me, she's a good, capable wrestler. I'd like to see her come back, is if she wants to work that schedule and if she wants to travel the road on SmackDown with Madcap Moss. But that's it for the stream. Thank you everyone for checking out. Really, really do appreciate it as always. Like I said, if you can do, please hit a like on this video. It really does help it as well with the algorithms and stuff like that. Leave a comment after the stream has gone off as well. We can talk about anything that you want to, whether it's a question, whether it's something that's been discussed in this video. I look forward to interacting with you. Paul Levesque, if you are still here, then make sure you can check out some of my ideas for the WWE Draft as well. Maybe some superstars that need to change shows, and perhaps maybe as well some superstars that should stay on the shows, and maybe some people you should call up to NXT. 2 of those videos are currently up. The 3rd one is dropping on Thursday, which will be the superstars that should stay on their actual brand, and Impact Wrestling as well. Like I say, the Impact Bound for Glory match card predictions is there. Woo, I'm out of breath. It's time for me to say farewell. Thank you for everyone to be watching. It's great to see everyone that's been supporting this channel as always. Have yourselves a good one. Johnny Gagano is back. And yes, Rebel Heart is back. We're going to be singing Rebel Heart for the next number of weeks and months in WWE. And I am all for it. Johnny Gagano is back. It's happy times in WWE. Thanks for Jonesy, who was here earlier in the stream as well. It's good to have his take on everything pro wrestling. He'll be back next week for Clash of the Champion predictions. And I hope to try and do one more live stream later this week. It'll probably be towards the weekend. But that's all. Take care. I'll see you next time. All the best.